In this episode, my featured coder interview goes bust. I usually have a set format when interviewing coders, but today's interviewee breaks the mold. Everything is different about him, in a good way. He leads with heart first. Ashton Palmer is a true artist with a deep love of powder coating and a passion for myth busting the trade. This guy's easy to talk to as we roll through topics like how the coding industry is evolving from the bottom up, the artist's way and the subtleties of powder coating, the need for top-down technology to serve us better, creating a better platform for the free flow of ideas and information, and listen up, Jimmy O'Malley, a great tip on coding candies. Will I ever get to his story? Find out. Get ready to level up your powder coater game.
How's it going?
It's going good.
Heck yeah.
Hi.
How's it going? Nice to meet you.
Me too.
So what you guys are doing is super cool, in my opinion. It's about time somebody started doing something like this.
Well, that's great. I'm glad you like it, and I love your enthusiasm. Sometimes we kind of don't know what we're doing, and we get kind of lost on our path. And
I feel like powder coating in a nutshell is a very mysticular, everything's hush hush. Like you figured something out, keep it to yourself. Don't tell your competitor.
It is.
You know what I mean? And
it is. We interviewed.
It's a very taboo industry.
If you go back and listen to Russell, Thresh 99, I think it was like the third or fourth one we did. It's fascinating. I found it fascinating. In fact, it's one of my favorite podcasts because he goes through the history of powder coating.
That's right.
And then goes into custom coders and how they ended up getting started and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that one, but I'm a history buff and stuff. So if you have time, go back and
I'm definitely been skimming through them and listening to a lot of them, like Kaiser. I listen to Kaiser's. That kid is
I love him.
He's a huge inspiration, and a lot of what he does reminds me of myself and what I went through prior to becoming, who I am today. And it's crazy, man. Like this industry is a dog eat dog world. And you're either a laborer or you're an owner or you're both. So.
And you're a slave to your business,
Yep.
But I really like what you're doing. And I just want to talk briefly before we get going.
Yeah, of course.
What do we want to talk about? And I mean, let's get some topics on the table. Of course, what I'm going to do or how it works is I'll introduce you. And then the first, Jesus, can you hear that?
Yeah.
Let me ask him how long he's going to do that. We're building the big oven right now. It's 20 foot.
Oh, yeah.
Are you done? I got to start my podcast. Oh, no. Well, I'll have to. He's cutting for the whole day, he said.
That's fine. We'll bust
He's connecting the electrical to it and stuff. But
what did you guys go with?
It's a powder coating shop. People are just going to have to get over it.
Right. What oven did you guys go with?
Oh, no, we're building it from scratch.
Oh, heck yeah. Are you guys going gas or are you going electric?
No, we do electric.
That's what I got too.
Yeah.
I got two of them.
And you say you have an electric oven and people go, What?
Yeah, that's like it's super like I'm in the Northwest, so like I'm in touch really big with Cardinal. Like I have a really long standing relationship with Cardinal and Alex and Clint, and they're a lot of why I know my knowledge is because of them. They're awesome paint reps. They've helped me get to where I was at in the industry, you know, on the industrial side. And yeah, every time I would tell him, you know, I'm doing stuff at home in my garage, and he's just rolling his eyes. He already knows. You're like, you know, they cringe when they hear electric.
You know what? They don't even know.
Oh, I've done some serious testing on both ends, and my stuff is like that. You can't tell. You cannot tell the difference.
Well, it's so much better. And I mean, I don't know,
spending
like,
thousands of dollars on gas.
It's cheaper.
Yeah. I'm just going to keep my mouth shut about it.
It is so good to talk to you and to have someone to talk to about this, because it is seriously like one of the deepest, darkest secrets out there.
It is. And like my biggest thing is like I got the Fab oven. I can't remember the full name. It's something Fab. He's out of like the East, out of like the Midwest.
Or not Fab.
Yeah, Fab.
Yeah.
Fab.
Is
the
it
Fab Shop or whatever?
You mean Ted's Fabs? Ted's Fabs?
No, it's the Fab Shop.
Mm.
But I bought his 4x4x6 convection electric oven, and I have got no complaints.
Right.
So
yeah, we kind of touched on it a little bit in one of our, I think in our, I don't know, one of our first podcasts. Now they're kind of getting to be kind of blurry now. I've done a lot of them. So like,
have you listened to the Joe Powder Coat show or whatever? The guys from Gima one?
Kevin.
Yeah,
I hope
I listened to one where they were talking about UV ovens.
Infrared.
That stuff's a trip.
Yeah. In fact, I was actually talking to, what were they? You know, I'm on the PCI committee, or I'm in the membership PCI. And somebody brought that up at the meeting, you know, and stuff.
Yeah, it's curious to where it's going to take our industry. That's what I'm curious about. I'm curious about, you know, like, is it going to leave us convection ovens and gas oven guys in the dust? Or is it, you know, it also kind of takes me back to like, you know, the actual, you know, you got to bring your substrate up to temp. We don't want our actual powder curing prior to our substrate being, you know, at good temperatures. So it's a difference. And there's a lot of difference when it comes to, you know, chemical bonds and stuff at that point. So I'm interested to learn it, but then again, I'm also skeptical about it.
Right. So I have something to share with you before we get going, but to finish what I was saying is I usually just kind of introduce you, and then, you know, that part about, you know, how to get in, you can take as long as you want. I usually, unless there's a topic, which I think the topic could be like artistry within powder coating. Certainly, what you do is so unique. And I want to clarify that you actually sell the pens on it. It's a product and a finish, or what?
Like what I'm doing is I'm offering, like, long story short is like, I'm a vapor. So like I quit smoking years ago, like 7 years ago when my son was born. And it was like a big thing to me, you know, like I'd smoke 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And like, that's any, you know, powder shop or any employer's, you know, problem, you know, at a threshold is like his employees smoking or wasting time smoking. Right. So long story short, like I won't bore you with the whole vaping thing.
Well, I think you should tell people your story. So I want to stop you right there, because I don't want to get it, because it's so easy to just start talking.
Yeah.
We haven't started yet, but I usually it's just like, you know, take as long as you need, unless we have a deeper topic. But I think the topic we can just, it sounds like you and I are going to just roll with it, right?
I could go for days. And I'm also like, obviously I'm in the Northwest. I'm in a cannabis culture area too. Like these things, this isn't cannabis. This is just nicotine vaping. This is what helped me quit smoking cigarettes.
Yeah.
And I do a podcast every Sunday that is counterculture for, you know, cannabis and vaping. And I'm a big vape advocate. So like the whole podcast thing is,
because it's
plug and play for me with you.
Yeah, because there has been some kerfuffle, I guess, about a certain person in the groups who has a cannabis thing going, and they're being backed or supported on some level by.
Are you talking about 710?
Oh God, please. Yes. You know about that?
Oh,
Are you friends with him? I mean, I need to know.
No, I'm not.
Right?
I haven't talked to him on a personal level, but like I knew about him prior to what he became.
Yeah.
And
Get me out of his group.
so like I don't like my big thing about the whole powder coating, like people that do, you know, videos and shit, like more power to them. Like I respect you for doing something with your life. You're being productive, but powder coating is like, you know, with the whole custom thing and then the whole industrial thing, like there's this head butting of like who's doing what right, who's doing what correctly. And when you're doing stuff online and you're doing stuff in like a sketchy booth, or you don't know how to ground your stuff properly, and you're smoking a cigarette while you're trying to fucking paint, and you just look like a hack, right? You just look like a hack. So at the end of the day, you make me look like a fucking idiot. You make Sean look like a fucking idiot. And that's like where I'm like, dude,
that's where people were drawing
professional.
the line. Yeah,
be professional.
That is where people were drawing a line.
And the fact that he's got like Tiger Drylac.
Well, that's the thing. So
dude,
last Friday.
That's got me pissed.
Oh, no, trust me. I gave.
Because Sean can't even do this kind of shit.
No, hell no. Hell no. And so here's the thing.
That's the button.
Yeah, that's crazy. And I'm glad you have samples and stuff here, because I want
just did this one yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't really see.
I saw that on your Instagram. I love Melback. It's one of
That's so weird. I can't. The thing about this though is like with these dormants, I don't think they have that one chemically right, because that shit mars up and scuffs. No matter, I could clear that thing for a fucking hour. Yeah. And it's this thin. Like,
no. We did a whole lift kit in that, and unfortunately,
everything else I haven't had that problem, but that one.
Well, so what happened was we'd done this lift kit. The guy took forever to pick it up. It wasn't we tried to cover it up as best we can, but it still was a little bit exposed. And on top of it, we were doing some huge ass like architectural job with a 2605, and that stuff is so gummy. I have it landed on everything and immediately bonded with anything it was just weird. And so the whole shop was covered in this shit, and you can't wipe it off. And then here we are,
gets trapped in your gun.
It off,
I got that shit coming out my gun for weeks, and I like ripped the whole thing apart and clean it.
Yeah. But I want to show you something that I'm working on, and I made a present for you.
Oh shit.
I did. Well, sort of. I hope you think it's a present. So we launched earlier this week, and I'm going to pull this up. Hold on. I'm just, we launched a new website. I got some CARES money, and I wanted to do something with it, and this was part of what I wanted to do with it. So we're wrapping it up. It's just a soft launch right now, but I want to show you and get your opinion of it. But so let me share my screen. So this is a directory website that we created, and the directory is for consumers to find powder coaters. So in my experience, we do really well with the blog. My blog is like one of the top consumer blogs out there for powder coating. And I realized this early on, and I realized that when you type in powder coating near me in your Google search, it doesn't necessarily tell you specifically what that guy does. And if he doesn't have a website, or maybe he's just on Instagram or whatever, how do you know that that's all he does, right? Unless you go
Right.
to his website and stuff. And so in a way to kind of define, and, I created kind of a directory site for consumers to sort of marketplace who they're looking for, what kind of project they have. And again, this is just like bare bones, but we're going to add so much more to this. But you have a listing in here. I made sure of that.
Heck yeah.
So let's see.
This is so rad. You're bringing so much light to what, like,
Here we are.
I feel like people like us that are doing, like our own things and bringing like our own topics to things. It's really bringing what powder coating should have been 10 years ago.
Well, think about this. I mean, I don't know how, I imagine people shop from all over the world, but, like they could see you even more here,
Mm-hmm.
on your website or whatever. And I don't know if you're on Etsy or where you're at, but, or how people find it. I imagine it's Instagram, but, how do they even know you exist? I didn't know you existed and stuff. So we just kind of, took some pictures from your website and
those two mods right there, that black and that pink one is really what blew me up.
Yeah, I'm sure it's ideal. It's like perfect. So here's your page. You can log in and alter it as much as you want. So you just hit claim listing. Okay. I'm going to get rid of this. This is not what I want on your page. I need something. There's something else that's going to be here. But
eventually, like once this is up and out, you could put the link to like our episode on that page.
We could.
This is going to be, honestly, I'm going to take this as a driving force to like put your guys' name on the map, like, and just big talk up you, because honestly, like I've been holding back jumping into like the actual powder coating scene. Like I've been hiding from it just because of the sense of like, I don't know how the industry is going to take that. I'm doing vape related stuff.
I think it's great. That's why I wanted to go on the podcast when you.
Yeah, and see, like I don't know that thing. Like like Alex from Cardinal, he's just like super blown away by what I can do. He doesn't even know. He's told me, he's like, Ashton, you're doing something that 99% of people around the world haven't even figured out with powder.
No, look at the patina powder coating. I mean, it's gonna.
Your guys' patina is insane. I was looking at that and I was like,
oh, I'll show you. We've got concrete, we have wood, we have hardened steel.
See, I've been trying to get like my background, my brother is a really, really good airbrusher and pinstripe artist. And that's really kind of why I did this with powder coating. I grew up in the background of, the custom car culture and doing body work and paint work and doing collision work and, really suffering and trying to figure out what life was. And once we get going and stuff, I'll tell you like the startup of where it came from. But really my background, lied in custom car and the hot rod industry around here. And I ended up going my own way. And, a lot of what I do is inspired by my brother and him, having his own business and being, an artist and everything. And once I started powder coating, it was like, I don't know, it took me like probably, I'd say about a year. And then I started doing like my own vape stuff. And then it was just like over from there.
Yeah. What you're doing is just, it's mind blowing, and it's only going to get better for you. I see that. In fact, I was thinking, who is this guy that reached out to me on my Instagram to get on the show? And then
I was talking to Sean. I talked to Sean.
Oh, you talked to Sean. Okay.
Well, so I was talking to Sean the other day, and I just kind of like, I'm not a big follower of his, or, in the instance of just like out of respect, like I respect him for what he does, and his work speaks for itself. But at the end of the day, like I don't care about, just talking about just shit like he does.
Right.
I guess. I don't want to get too far into it, but
he's very good at it too, so.
Oh yeah. I messaged him one day just to shoot shit. And I was like, what's up with 710 trying to copy your fucking your sparkle. Like I already know how he makes it because I'm like, my brother is really in cahoots with PPG, and I've had PPG be like, hey, you should use some of this. And like that just takes away from the whole powder coating thing in my head. So I don't do those kind of things. But I was like, I messaged him. I was just like, what's up with, 710 trying to copy you and blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, dude, me and you need to like sit down and talk and just kind of have like a round table to like weed out the fucking bullshit online.
Yeah. It's, I look at it.
And then, you know what he said to me? He's like, you need to talk to Maui Powder Works.
Well, here's how I look at it. I look at it as there's, just like what you said earlier, where there are some movements in a very boring market, right? It's an industrial market. And yet there are people like you, there's people like Sean, there's even people like 710, as much as I hate to say that word.
Exactly.
At least they're moving and shaking, right? And it's waking up a very dormant industry.
It's disturbing an industry.
It is, and it's so quiet. And almost when I talk to these industrial people that have, they've been general managers, CEOs, sales guys, they can't even wrap their head around it. They're so into, they've been working for the one same company for 30 years, or it's mind blowing. And here we are. And okay, so I'm going to date myself right now because I remember the 70s and punk and UK and, whatever, that whole movement. And then I'm going to date myself again, Madonna. Mm-hmm. And I was in fashion back then. So, I was paying attention to that. I was going to college for fashion marketing and, I wanted to be a buyer. At least that's what I thought I wanted.
A lot of my life and a lot of my colors come off of what I grew up doing in the 90s. And we'll get into it. Trust me. That's like why you see me using a lot of fluorescent colors and and just bringing the flair back.
Here's the thing that Madonna did. Madonna was on the streets of New York. She was playing around local gigs. There was this was kind of towards the end of the whole punk movement. And we were transitioning into the 80s. And she picked up on a lot of, first of all, she was, a starving artist. And she picked up on a lot of that fashion coming out of that world. And she would shop at vintage markets and stuff like that for her fashion, right? She literally this was the first time this had ever happened. She pulled from the street and brought it up to haute couture, which had never been done before. I mean, Chanel, Karl Lagerfeld, all of these people, Christian Dior, they never looked at the street for inspiration, right? Mm-hmm. She somehow managed to cross over and broke through. I think she did more for, as good as she is, or how much she broke barriers in music, she did the same in fashion, especially at the beginning of her career. And that had never been done before. And I've seen that before in fashion, and I'm telling you, it's happening in powder coating. People like us that are creative and are thinking outside the box, whether you've got a YouTube channel and you're just teaching people everyday stuff, or you're doing extreme coating on small items that are artistic and beautiful and super highly customized, or you're doing a patina powder coating or some other strange anomaly that is just so out of the norm. You're breaking people's minds, and that's a good thing. Mm-hmm. And it's a tough road though.
It is. It's like my biggest thing was I started doing this because a lot of these products, as a consumer, trying to quit smoking, trying to find a nice mod that was going to stand up with me going to work and being, dirty powder coat hands, being in an industrial shop all fucking day. Maybe I drop it and it breaks. All these products were, maybe if they were made in America, they were coming with Cerakote finishes. And I'm not here to knock Cerakote. Cerakote has its place and its time, maybe on your gun on that shelf that's never going to see use. But, Cerakote is something that when you're using something every day, it just wears. And, as a coder myself, I saw an opportunity there and I was like, okay, I have this opportunity to, combine both of my passions, with, the love for quit smoking and helping people to quit smoke and spread that awareness, but also take my passion from a custom culture and background and actually put something on this device that's, going to stand a drop test, that's going to stand, the acids on your hands, that, it's going to stand the nicotine and the juice maybe rolling down your mod. Like it's things that it's more than just, me, locking myself in my garage and figuring things out, but it was, never
you were solving a need.
Yeah. And that was like the big thing is like, I looked at it in like I guess I could go back on, if you want me to start like on how I, got to where I'm at, I could.
Yeah. But first I'm going to give you your present.
Okay.
I haven't even given you your present yet. This is just, I wanted to get your opinion on this, and this might just, we might just roll with this the way it is. Our conversation's just happening naturally, and we're just kind of talking the shit about powder coating. So, this is just, I liked your profile. This is exactly what I want to see powder coaters doing. And I hope they're going to log in and register their page and stuff, because this is ideal. This is what we want. You've got specialty items, specialty finishes. So it's all just growing. It's just the basic thing. Oh, geez. Hold on. Nobody's supposed to call me on a Saturday. We're closed. Maui Powder Works. You can stop by. We're not officially open, but you can stop by. We're here now. Yeah. Come on by. Okay. See ya. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, you're good.
I'll have to cut it out. But anyways, I really wanted to show this to you just because I knew we were going to talk and stuff. And
it's a good place for people to go and put their stuff and become, make other people well aware, not only necessarily, somebody looking to get something done specialized, but just people within the industry. This could be groundbreaking in the sense of, this could help somebody that struggled with Illusion Violet every time they've sprayed it, and, maybe they've gone by the spec sheet, but something's not right. That's where I kind of pride myself in is I came from like a big NASAV background. One of my employers was a big NASAV guy, and obviously he had Cardinal in there 24/7. And if it wasn't Cardinal, it was Sherwin-Williams, or it was my Wagner rep, or it was my GEMA rep in there trying to sell me a GEMA, or it was, there's a lot of things. And that's kind of like why I want to be here and touch on, because I feel like I've touched every aspect of this industry in a short amount of 10 years. And there's a lot of things that I want, to bring to light in this subject when it comes to even just, a kid that's, maybe in his mid 20s and he's been doing it for 5 years and he's, maybe he hates his life, but he's still coating, those are the kids that I want to give inspiration to, because I was maybe once that kid at one point, like getting to the point to where you felt like you've done everything and you've accomplished all these goals within, yourself, and trying to just be a good painter at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm.
And, and sometimes that's the unfortunate thing about powder coating is you live these really high highs and then you live these really low lows of like, maybe there's a lot of work coming in and you're loving it, but then it's like you finally catch up and it's done and then it's never ending, or,
Yeah.
You did something really, really cool. And then like the next customer, you did something just as cool, if not better, and they're not satisfied. It's a juggling act, and
it's a struggle. And especially when you work with your hands, and it's sort of a mastery thing. And Ross and I are both like this. We tend to master things and then we want to move on.
Yeah, that's where I'm getting to.
Yeah. And I don't know what the solution is to someone like us, because it's like, unfortunately, the downside of that is you're constantly creating something new, which sounds beautiful, but it doesn't necessarily lend itself to financial regularness or financial, because you need stability in order to, and that means sticking with something for the long haul in order to generate, if you're self-employed, you've got to keep on that day in and day out, where you're going to have to hire someone to make sure that you can achieve that day in, day out, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's the problem, I think, that on one hand, we have so much experience, we have so much energy, we have so much stuff to share people with powder coaters because of all the ups and downs we've learned. But at the same time, we constantly are trying something new or doing something new, and we're not focusing back on what we've created, and there is it's the journey of the alchemist, really.
Yeah, that's like what my brother told me, like I asked my brother, because, it's like sometimes I struggle with it. And he told me, he's like, Ashton, you need to go back and look at what you've done just in the last month. Yeah. Or look at what you've done in 6 months, Ashton. He's like, you got to go back and just put yourself in that same headspace. Or like, I had a customer that a lot of, like, you've seen that mod that had the Pharaoh on it and the beetle, and it's like 10 different colors with, the purple and violet shift, and then it glows in the dark. Like, I've had my customer be like, I want to do something crazier than this. And I've told him, like, I honestly don't think I could put myself in that headspace again. Mm-hmm. Because, like at that point I was like working a full-time job and running my business. So I would go paint, 10 to 12 hours a day, run, 15 to 20 carts a day, or, 2,000 to 4,000 feet of hand row, whatever it may have been that day. And then I'd go home and spray all night long till wee hours in the morning in my garage with my Craftsman powder coating gun and my convection toaster oven. And, I would slam these orders out, and then I would get up and drag my ass to work and do it again. And
that's insane. Yeah. It's hard to keep that up. That's how I feel right now. COVID-19 has certainly
I don't think I've ever been busier. This thing has made me so busy. It's been like a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. How is that? I'm trying to answer that question. I cannot.
I think if you look at it in the aspect, like, I'm really big into motocross and supercross, and I grew up racing BMX and dirt bikes and stuff. But now, I'm a big fan of it all. But I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to a lot of announcing. And one of the announcers said, he was like, for racing motorcycles, everybody's racing Saturday to sell dirt bikes on Monday, because dirt bike shops, like, that's how dirt bikes are sold and bought. Whoever's winning Sunday or Saturdays, so and so's buying that bike, right? So right. When all this hit and all the racing stopped, or give or take, it's basketball or football or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
Like, everybody's like, wait a second, like, they're freaking out. Like, what's this going to do to our industry? What's this going to do for sales? Well, the first thing everybody did was like, I'm going to go outside. So bicycles got bought, dirt bikes got bought. You can't go to a dirt bike or a bicycle shop right now and find what you want, because they're all sold out, because everybody's doing and wanting to do what they've held back for how many, years. So it's like, it's kind of like a crazy thing.
It is. For us digitally, what we're doing is we've got Maui Powder Works, but we're also opening up this digital side to our business, which in itself is its own business,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Ultimately, this is going to, bring consumers, it's a marketplace for consumers to come and find powder coaters, also to learn more about powder coating them in themselves, right? You know, because they're on the hunt as well. And so, you know, I think that it's getting there. And I think that something like this that can marry the powder coaters to, you know, the people that are searching for the information is going to be, you know, it's small right now, but ultimately I want it to give, you know, this is a valuable backlink to your website.
Well, it's valuable for, you know, like I come from like this crew of like these people that I do the podcast with and like that I'm on. Like if you type my name in, you've probably seen me on quite a few vape shows. And the vaping community is something that I've aspired to like show the world, like because I grew up, you know, following my brother around to pinstriping shows, doing brush bashes, and being in that side of an artist's world where, you know, there's 10 million pinstripers and there's 50,000 airbrushers and they're all got these egos and they all don't get along. And there's all this, you know, animosity between each other. But when I stumbled across the vape community and became a part of it, and everybody's out to help everybody, you know, like I'm out to help, you know, if somebody's trying to quit smoking, I don't want them to jump through the loopholes and find all these products that didn't help me. You know, I want them to experience it and not have to deal with that stress and you know what I mean? And move on. And maybe that's what this industry needs as powder coaters. We need to help other people solve problems because you know what, guess what? Our paint isn't going to show up and be better because we just bitched about it. You know what I mean? Like our guns aren't going to get better because if we don't voice our opinions, you know what I mean? That's the thing. We're starting to see the technology and the paint and like the guns and the paint are starting to match up with technology today. Yeah. And if we don't keep going, it's not going to get better. So like if we want things to get better, we have to want that. We have to voice our opinions and
I hate to quote Russell again, but that's exactly what he said. It's time for us to band together to demand lower prices for equipment, to demand better services from these industrial companies that think that we're just mosquitoes flying around their head, and to create better equipment. I mean, and
I guarantee I would put my business name on it. That I guarantee you I can do something with a GEMA that a GEMA rep couldn't even figure out with his own gun.
That's awesome. Good.
And that's the thing. Like I started on the first powder coating gun I ever used back in the day when I started in 2012 at an industrial shop. After I had to sandblast for 2 years prior to even him letting me touch the gun, I started on an old Nordson Versa Spray 2 out of a pressure pot. And then like as time went on, I moved to another shop. I got to learn on a GEMA. I learned the GEMA really well. And then I moved to another shop, and all these 3 shops that I've been to, I was the lead coater. And at all 3 of those shops, I got to use Nordson, GEMA, and Wagner. And the Wagner Sprint X, sorry to say it, you guys, that is my favorite gun out of everything I've ever used. There's something about that double click feature gun that I could not get away from. I'm saving my money up for another one.
Good. That's good. We need to hear about that and stuff, because it's just the same question that gets asked every day in the groups. If I have to see another one, I'm, you know, like, maybe that's what I'm seeing in the groups today. I took a look at some stuff that had been going on in the last couple of days, and it seems like it's, and getting back to what I was saying earlier, it's like it's evolving right now. It's going fast every day. Yeah, it's evolving really fast on the groups. It's evolving. And
that's the thing. I don't want to be behind. Like I want my name to be out there. I want to be able to help people, and I want to be able to. At the end of the day, I really want to be able to help companies. Like I want to be able to reach out and talk to Columbia Coatings about my Cool Coat benchtop setup that I've been running for over a year now, you know, and that's the thing. Like, I don't see people doing that. Like, I want these companies to know that their products are working good.
Right. it almost, when I talk to these guys and I talk to them about the products and the, the equipment, it almost feels like it's like they've never heard what I've just told them before, like that kind of unsolicited opinion or view or whatever is marketing gold to them, but they're not used to getting it. They're only used to it at their level or their high level. It's like the haute couture or the high fashion people, of the 80s. They hadn't heard the street before. And that's what changed fashion from there on out. A lot of stuff is much more freer and open and deregulated in a sense of, creativity in fashion today because of that change, that sea change. And I see it, we're on the verge of that right now. And that's why it's happening. It's evolving really fast. And I think the more the merrier at this point. I don't necessarily condone, some stuff, and maybe that's just me, but like, you don't want to prey on people either. And that's some of the stuff that I haven't been happy with, in terms of, preying on innocent people, or maybe they're not so innocent, but if they are, maybe they're asking for it in terms of like, helping someone who doesn't even have a legit coding company, represent us. That I get uncomfortable with. It's fine. He wants to have a digital marketing, company, because that's really all it is. You click his affiliate links and he gets paid. Just because he's recommending this certain brand of tape doesn't necessarily mean he knows anything about coding. That's just my opinion.
Right.
But I haven't given you your present yet. So we're about ready to promote the directory. And I thought, I'm going to just take the coders that I've interviewed, and make kind of like mini commercials, because I think every coder has a story to tell. And so I created a sort of a mini commercial that I was going to promote on Facebook. It obviously features your stuff, but so let me get to the commercial and see if you can. Oh shoot, where is? Oh, here it is. Can you still see my screen?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
This is cool. It's like a dream. It's a dream for me, like to put Idaho on the map for a lot of different things. You know what I mean? So it's cool. It's like when I see this kind of stuff and you guys doing what you do, I'm excited for it. So yeah, I did see this earlier. I seen this somewhere. The gun I got.
Not bad.
Sick. You're just like the marketing whiz. You got your husband in the back, sweating to death, and you're in the office just making your guys' name loud. That's awesome.
Well, exactly. I mean, it's his fault. I'm going to just
right.
So I had a very successful refinishing business. And in addition to that, we got into remodeling condos and homes and all kinds of things, because, the Great Recession happened. And so we had to just wear many hats, right? And so we got into room makeovers and condominiums and everything. And it blossomed really fast because I was already in the market. And so it was easy to pick up jobs here and there. And, it was a great company in the sense that it offered a lot of cash flow, but it wasn't a lot of contracting companies don't profit, they just have the cash flow, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of unless you can really master all of that, that really was kind of a dead end.
Unless you got the whole contract on the whole island, in your case.
Yeah. So plus it was high pressure, and we'd been doing it for 10 years, and Ross was just over it. And he's like, we'd already had this side powder coating thing going. But, we just decided, well, hell, he was just giving me such a hard time of trying to get stuff done, finishing up. Oh, here comes a customer. Hi.
Hey, how's it going?
Did you call?
I did.
Okay, let me direct you around the corner here and let you talk to Ross.
Perfect, thanks.
Okay. Hi. Just another day at Maui Powder Works.
Yeah, you guys are you deal with the general public. I wish if you guys ever come to Idaho, you have to come to my shop. Like,
I love.
You would be mind blown because we're like by appointment only kind of. So when you walk into my shop, a lot of it's obviously my brother's artwork and his airbrushing and everything. And then there's like the candy machine I powder coated, or like the tons of vices that I've done. And then like the saws in there. And it's just everywhere you look, there's airbrushing on the garage door. There's we got Jimi Hendrix on the back door by my booth and stuff. So
my nephew does airbrushing, and I've always wanted him to airbrush like the oven door.
Yeah.
And stuff.
That's what Chaz wants to do, my big logo on my door. And I'm like,
yeah.
I don't know.
I know a lot of people put stickers on there, but I was like, I have an idea for that. But it's I forgot what we were talking about. What were we talking about? Where this industry is going, or where it should go, kind of just a redirect. And giving back. I think it should just be starting with just a give and a give and a give. And then hopefully something will, because somebody's got to start doing it, right? Somebody has to get it out there at first. And I got this, it's called an adaptability grant through my county. And I'm like, I'm just going to do this. And I ended up getting most of what I requested. And so we went right into building out the directory and getting it going. But yeah, I want to feature and talk about, as I interview people, I realize they have a story. It's like Victor Pate from Black Label has a story. He wasn't satisfied and he started his own powder line, so you have your story, which is I kind of touched on in the ad. And I think everybody has a story,
Yeah.
and every powder coater does. And we should just be highlighting those stories, and putting them up on the directory and seeing what happens, it's just content, right? It's just content. So I think we can do it. I hope you like what I created.
Heck yeah, I'm all for it. I'm definitely going to be I'm definitely, whenever you guys need help or anything like this side of things too, even with the podcast, like I'm down to come in and chat whenever you guys are available, or
that's great.
Just to keep it flowing. Like, I know once podcast things get going, sometimes at the end of the day, it's hard to get people on, and maybe, Ross says, we need a lot of people in. Maybe one of these days we can get Ross on and just have, or a couple other people, and get a round table of, things going, maybe get a question.
Yeah, I would love to do a round table. No,
questions, serious questions that, from coders that we want, not necessarily answered, but we want, questions asked to us, and then we can relay information, because at the end of the day, we're the people using the products and, and dumping the paint.
Let's do that. I think, and I'm just,
at the end of the day, what can it hurt from like a bunch of people at the end of the day that are really behind the gun with the experience, because at the end of the day, a lot of these reps would come in and they'd be like, oh, your gun's set up wrong. And they would set my gun up, and I'd be like, look at my boss, and I'm like, this is what they think transfer efficiency is. And I'd spray it, and more than 50% of it's hitting the ground. You're like, that's not how my gun's set up, dude. Like, and that's the thing, a lot of these, I've seen a lot of these reps come in from Sherwin-Williams, to be exact, and they don't know their fucking foot from their ass, and they're
Right.
selling Wagners, and they're trying, it's just like, it's
Yeah.
like, at the end of the day, my boss told me one day, he goes, dude, a rep really isn't a rep today. They're a fucking salesman.
Right.
Like at the end of the day, they're trying to sell you what their product is, and it's the best.
Yeah, and that's kind of like in the groups too, why so many people ask that same question over and over again. Which gun should I get? I just saw it again.
What gun you should get is what gun you know how to work the best,
Right.
and what tailors to your environment, your what applications you're doing, and
But so if you go, and we're in Hawaii, so we never went to Powder X, we never went to powder coating week and done the 101 class or the 102 over there. We never done any of those things. And so have you ever done those? And
I got the opportunity to do a seminar with Forrest, but so I didn't get to go because the shop that I was in, I was the only painter for the 2 years that I was there until I quit. And that was the thing. I was told I was going to be flown out to PCI, and I was told I was going to do this, or I was told I was going to be featured in PCI Mag and all this crazy stuff. But at the end of the day, it was like, no, you still got to paint and do this stuff. So I felt like at the end of the day, if I did go to any of those seminars, I would have a lot to tell and to teach. But I felt like some of the things, just from experience of certain reps coming in and kind of confusing me and taking away and almost setting me back a week or give or take, I did a lot of spraying in my industrial career. And I felt like some of those things they were awesome when it came down to learning chemicals and just learning, the whole chemistry behind things and understanding, primers and zincs and stuff, and how you shouldn't spray zinc, above 250, or you shouldn't, if you're in a production shop and you're trying to put the paint down, primer and zinc was a big learning curve for any applicator. And if you can't apply it and you can't get transfer efficiency with zinc, your life's going to be hell. And your boss is going to be mad.
Right.
So,
yeah. And, it looks like there's a homeless man outside my door. Okay. With his tweaker bike and all of that stuff. Okay. So
the industrial park life.
So yeah, but it's crazy because I'll go to the source, right? And I'll call up Gima, or I'll call up these people that I've been talking to, and they are so in and passionate for the business, yet they can't
relay right information to you.
Well, I think that has something to do with the corporate thing.
Right.
You know what I mean?
They're very particular about the right vocabulary when you're talking about stuff. And, certain painters have certain vocabularies about things. That was the hardest thing for me when I was the lead coder and the paint manager at Precision Powder and Blast here in Rathdrum, Idaho. And it was at the time when it first opened, it was the biggest booth and oven this side of the Mississippi. So it was 55 feet long, 15 wide, and 15 tall.
Wow.
And I had 2 Wagner pumps in there. So one would either be in primer or, whatever. One was in top coat, vice versa. And I would dump at least 300 to 400 pounds a day. And learning all that, and learning how far an actual mill goes, or, learning how to actually stack mills and watch, back ionization, and really watch how powder's talking to you. That's one thing even to this day that I'm just I'm a glutton for that information. That's I swear my eyes are addicted to watching powder transfer to metal, and what 3 or 4 passes does at 45. I'm very big on on your amperage and your voltage settings and where they're at with your air. If I can see somebody spraying with too much air, I'm just
yeah,
calm it down, bring it back down, dude. And that's the thing, is you're seeing a lot of these guns, and a lot of these people they're fucking maxing out their KVs and their microamps, and you really don't need to be. At the end of the day, if you want that gun to last you 20 to 15 years, if you spent $7 to $8 grand on a gun, you don't need to be rocking it at 100. And I like to keep mine around 80 if I'm doing hot coats and stuff. And that's like what you guys were talking about the other day. Ross is talking about hot flocking, and I'm pretty big on hot flocking.
Why so many people are anti that? I don't know.
I got videos on videos of me doing like thousands of feet of handrail, just ripping and then letting it drop temp, cool back, go over to your gun. That's the cool thing about doing a hot flock. Like if, let's say if Ross was to mess with a Wagner, you could set that gun up to, you know, higher voltage and amperage, bring your powder, your air up and your powder down a little bit, and just get a decent coat over everything, let it drop. And then you can set up the gun to where you can double click it, and then it'll drop your microamps and your voltage and your air and your powder, or put your powder up, or, you know, wherever you want to save that setting, and then recoat the whole thing. Boom, it's done. Going back in the oven, and you got perfect mills.
Yeah. Yeah. I think there's a lot of upside in what can be talked about in the future. And of course, it'll all be driven. The more we create in this space, the more questions will be answered, the more, you know, and that's what I was talking about earlier. Like there was some discussion in the groups about how like forums aren't being used. And yet a lot of us, or I say us, but my husband, that's how he learned, you know, and they're not user friendly. They're bulky and awkward to use. You just want the answer now. And so that's why the groups has, you know, blown up in terms of, you know, getting answers to questions you have. Plus people want content in their fingertips. They don't want to have to go and search it now.
Well, they want to just be able to type in what their problem is, and they want an answer for it now. Like that's the biggest thing about like when I would go to a new shop, and let's say I just came off the Nordson and I had to learn how to run a GEMA. My boss isn't going to tell me or give me a lowdown on how to run his GEMA. He expects me to know how to run that thing. So guess what? I went and tried to search all the gun settings you could figure out for GEMA. Guess what? Nobody was online 5 years ago telling you how to do that.
Yeah.
Nowhere.
Yeah.
And so what do? I just go up and I'd look up the user manual and I would figure out every damn button and how to run that box.
Yeah.
And that's really what you have to do. And it's like, at the end of the day, I don't like settings being told, like, I don't like, okay, you need to run this setting. Like, no, that's not how it's going to go. I'm going to set my gun up how I feel like on my body, or, you know, specific application. Like if I'm doing a set of wheels and I'm doing them hot, yeah, I want my voltage way up and vice versa. But it's like, those are the things. Like if you can't figure out how to set up your gun correctly, like you just need to go back to square one, dial the gun back down. Like I learned on an old dial gun, you know what I mean? And now we're learning on guns with digital buttons. And it's like a big learning curve going from a gun that you've used, you know, with dials and getting everything set just right. It can mess with you when you get to a new gun.
And let's face it, I mean, I'm always the way of the warrior, the way of, I'm an alchemist at heart. I read a lot of esoteric and alchemic books and stuff like that for my own spirituality and stuff. And, you know, there is, you know, the search for the homunculus or just a deeper understanding. And let's face it, electricity isn't for everybody. You know?
And that's kind of funny you bring that up, because, you know, I spent a lot of my younger 20s like wondering, like, is this electricity messing with my psyche? Is it messing with my emotions? Like, and that's one thing that I kind of like, it was weird to think about. Like, there's that sound that, you know, if anybody knows, if you've worked in an industrial shop and you're doing handrail or you're doing wheels and you pull a load out of the oven and it's at 400 degrees and you got your gun set up just where you need it and you start spraying a hot coat and you get that sound of just, you know, like that sweet hot coat sound. And I remember the first time I seen my very first boss doing a hot coat on this I was sandblasting these old circus rides, and there was these old rocket ships that you would sit in, right?
Oh, cool.
And they had, I can't begin to explain how many mils of like lead and lacquer paint was, you know, all over these things. And, you know, I'd blast him and then I'd run him over on the forklift to the powder shop, and my boss would hang him up, and he was spraying them, but he was heating them up. And, you know, the dudes that were in there spraying at the normal times, they weren't doing, or I wasn't catching them doing stuff hot. And I remember walking into the shop, I was like 19 years old, and this big fat boss that I had just sweating his ass off, no mask on, you know, spraying in this dark dungeon. And it's like this bright purple from Sherwin-Williams at the time. And he's laying it hot. And I'm just like, that's when I knew. I was like, whoa, this is cool. Like,
This is cool. Right.
Now I understand what you're doing, because it looks wet, you know, like growing up painting hot rods and doing all that stuff with my brother. I was like, oh. And then I was like, I was just waiting for somebody to quit to get that spot, you know?
There are subtleties to it. And you kind of touched on that a couple minutes ago when you said, you know, how's my body feeling, how, you know, and the gun settings and watching the powder flow. You know, people think it's just, you know, and it's not. There are, especially when you do the fine work that you're doing, you know.
Yeah, so that's kind of like the inlay work, and like that stuff's like a totally different thing. But like when you think about Faraday cage and stuff like that, like I can touch on things that I had to do when I was working in the big industrial shop, and I had to do all these like huge boot dryers for like ski resorts.
Okay.
But they were like 27 to like 60, you know, slots for boots to go in. Mm-hmm. And they're like these big, you know, sheet metal structures, but then they have these slots coming out, and the Faraday cage behind that
in there between the two
was so gnarly to get. And my boss is like, I was like, let me paint one hot. Like, just let me paint one hot in those spots real quick. And he's like, no, it'll get too heavy. And, you know, because it was like textured. It was like BK47 or something from Cardinal. And I'm like, just let me do it, dude. And I did one, and he's like, oh my God. And I'm like, see, I got to stack it more, and it looks more healthier. But then I'd figured out, like, I could go in, like, you know, say I had 10 of them on a cart. I couldn't get them all hot. But like, you'd be surprised with like how you can, the whole shaking thing I've got away from over the years. And like coming into these new guns, like these new guns have so much this cloud of electricity that you work with. And like, there's sharp edges to it if you know where to point your gun, and you can kind of like, you can kind of come into things and then pull the trigger and then come out and then whip and do certain things with like, you know, a regular fan tip.
Yeah. It sounds like you've been a deep study on that.
Oh yeah. And it's pretty tricky. And that's just from time. That's time and experience of, you know, hours of being in the booth, you know, nonsense. And those were the days that I don't miss that. I don't miss the hustle and bustle of it, because those are the days that I was ignoring the science. Those are the days that I was listening to podcasts just to get me to the day, you know, like that looks jumpy enough. Like after it comes out and I'm milled out fine, I'm cool. You know, like I was just at that point of life in this industry, I was just like a robot, you know, and I felt like a number, and I was getting paid good, but there's a lot of things that, you know, that fall into it.
Yeah. You have a way of explaining things into the subtleties that I think even my husband has a hard time talking about. And it's, you know, it was when we were teaching our employee, you know, those subtleties, you know, and the confidence, you know, just get in there.
Yeah, and it's like the best thing that I can say for anybody is like, you're not going to learn from doing it right. Like you're going to fuck shit up. And like at the end of the day, that's what makes you a better painter, is if you can fix that. If you can sand it down and recoat it with no issues, because guess what? You're going to have a issue recoding if you can't code it properly the first time, you know, like, and those are the things, you know, but it's, I just encourage even like employers, or if they have a coder that's, you know, getting frustrated and stuff, just like give him time, let him figure it out, you know, and like, that's the thing. Like in those instances, like I had at the very first job that I had a boss that was like my favorite boss that taught me the most. And in the instance of like not giving a fuck and just doing it and getting in there and figuring it out. Like he didn't tell me like, this is your error, this is your power, this is this. He was like, this does this, this does this, this does this, figure it out. And he gave me 8 years to figure it out, and I learned, you know, and like, but then I went to other shops, and you don't have that time. Like you don't have that time to figure it out. You're
or the margins, because they have to, and that's why
when you got a 50-foot oven, that's a fire breathing dragon. And if there ain't 50 grand pumping out of that fucker every, 10 hours, you're losing money.
Yeah. And they don't have that time to waste on mistakes and stuff. And I can understand, I totally, this is great. We're talking about this because you can totally understand that. Mm-hmm. But I resort back to those original scientists, mad scientists that came out with the powder coating and, Gemmer and Fordite and all of that stuff that came out of that, out of Thresh 99's podcast, because that's where I gravitate to, right? Those people. Yeah,
see, that's the stuff that I need to know about and I don't know about yet.
Yeah, they were experimenting every day, and it was like, talk about hustle.
Yeah.
They were trying to beat out the other guy because there were patents on the line. There were industries to, and I mean, probably more under the gun back in the 50s and 60s than we are today. We definitely have more of a privilege because it's out there. And yet, as big as the coating industry is, we're still a small part of it that's supposed to be, I'm excited because I don't think these powder coaters understand, even the garage guys. Shout out to you guys. You need to understand that we're about ready to double how much money this industry is going to produce in the next 7 to 10 years. Double. That's what.
Well, and that was I had a lot of insight on that.
That was
I had a lot of insight on that last year at the tail end of my, my industrial career. That was the big thing with where I was living in Idaho at the time. That's the big boom city right now. And they're supposed to be, they're expecting another 50,000 fucking people moving in that area. Guess what? That's housing developments. That's more numbers and handrail footage than you can fucking put your mind on.
Right.
At that point, it was, I walked into a shop that he put millions of dollars into this shop and didn't know how to run it. And I walked in and I'm just I remember the first day I walked in and I ran 10 carts in an hour for him. And he looked at me and he was like, how did anybody ever let you walk out their door? And I said, I guess you'll figure that out in a couple of months or a couple of years. And that's just the severity of it.
Yeah. It's definitely evolving. I think it's good evolving, but it's not without, it's not without its drama.
Oh, fuck.
It's not without its drama.
Talk about an industry full of drama that you don't hear about, right? It's there's so much drama, but it's fucking hilarious.
And how do you, I had this issue last week with Tiger. It's how do I tell this corporate guy?
You don't. You just let him fall on his face, because at the end of the day, that's what's going to happen. And fuck me for saying it, but somebody's got to.
It's true. And I explained it to him. He didn't get it. I explained it again. And I'm thinking, am I just not saying this right? Or are you that derpy? And, you got
to look at it in the aspect, though, of look at America and look at what paint companies are on the West Coast and look at what paint companies are on the East Coast. Tiger Drylac and PPG and Axel Nobel, they rule the East Coast. And there's not much, you're not seeing what we're doing. You're not seeing the severity of just the sheer passion and skill of people that you do on the West Coast, and with, you guys going into Hawaii, that you do on the East Coast. East Coast they're big money shops. They're big production shops. It's just big box paint. So, and that's where, what you're saying, we're breaking that mold. And, it might be 6 months from now, it might be a year from now, but at the end of the day, I think, it's the companies that are on the West Coast are more towards, the center of the states, like Columbia Coatings and Prismatic, and you got Cardinal in Washington and California and Vegas now. But Cardinal's, a big box company, but I've worked a lot with Cardinal. They'll send you 5 pounds of paint. they're very, very awesome with their technicals, and a lot of their blacks, a lot of their whites. You can spray that stuff hot and you don't have to worry about it running. Like that stuff, like BK08, all that stuff's formulated to be sprayed hot and cold. Like there's so much, like, and that's the thing that kind of bugs me about Cardinal is like they have such a good base for colors like black, gloss black, silvers, you know, charcoal grays. Like if you can't get your hands on IFS, which I mean, if you can get your hands on IFS, I would suggest it because it sprays so nice. But you know, that's at the end of the day, it's like if it's cost effective, if their shipping is on point, you know, there's a lot of variables that roll into where you're pulling paint from. And if you're getting like bad feedback from certain colors, you know, like I get bad feedback from like Jack Black from Prismatic.
Right. I think the one big thing that's holding back these bigger companies is the fact that they don't have e-commerce sites.
Yep.
And it's very expensive to build that out, and it's not been on their radar, and it should be 100% priority number one. Make it.
Well, it's like Prismatics put it out there in everybody's face. You guys could be selling small amounts and be making a fucking killing off of it, especially if your product's good. Like at the end of the day, if I could pay $10 to get a pound of just something from Cardinal from their website, you bet your ass I would.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But at the end of the day, certain companies just, you know, they're stuck in their old ways.
I think the pandemic has helped them understand that, although I think the majority of what they've been more worried about versus e-commerce is just logistics and making sure that their product and their supply is working. And that's definitely been an issue in this whole thing, and what makes it slightly different than other recessions. But you know, I think that it's expensive to start on the level that they're at with the size of their websites to build out an e-commerce site. Even if they could just do it could even just be a separate website.
Yeah, a separate entity. You know, like I don't see like, and even Cardinal and PPG, they already have the format. They already sell custom colors. You know, like they already have somewhat of what these other big box companies don't have. I don't see why they're not like here. Like here's the.
Like I said, I don't think it's on their radar. And
like, have you seen this new color changing stuff that all of a sudden just popped up in the last month? Like, you know how long I've been waiting for those 5 color changing colors to just hit powder? Like we've been waiting 10 plus years for that.
Yeah. Yeah. Is that the Tiger one?
Yeah. Tiger just did one, and I seen Powder by the Pound has one, but we all know they buy and sell everybody else's powder.
And I went to SEMA 360. It was sort of a non-event from what I'm hearing about the participants.
Yeah, I was like curious about that, and like I didn't really see anything like.
It was probably the most expensive experiment ever done.
Yeah, in the car industry for sure. That's everybody out there on a limb though. Like that invests into that show. You got to think about it, like Foose and all these wheel companies and all these tire companies and all these paint companies. SEMA is what keeps us alive at the end.
Well, I think part of it was that the week of SEMA was the same week as the presidential.
Yeah, the election. Well, I mean, even you know, like you have social media platforms. You saw a drop in a serious drop in the last 2 weeks in activity than anything.
Yeah, and you know,
unless you hashtag like fucking some politician bullshit, like you weren't showing up in the algorithm that week.
Right. I think timing wise, that was not a good time to have an online event. And then, you know, the content seemed interesting. Of course, I was in Hawaii, so I was already missing the live stuff. But you could attend the webinar after, just like any other webinar. They'd hold it up there. But then so I was excited that, okay, I missed it this week because of all the, you know, crazy stuff going on in business and the politics and all of that. And then I go back like a day later after the event, like I think it ended on the 6th, then it went on the 7th, and all the webinars were gone. Like, leave that shit up. I've already paid to go. Leave it up. Why? Leave it up for a month. Leave it up for a year. Who cares? You know?
It's not like we can go and shake each other's hands right now.
You can't even click on the website now. It's just gone. And I'm like,
crazy.
I could go back anytime I want now and listen to anything that anybody said. And there were some good topics. There were topics about trends. There was topics about rims. There was topics, you know, and, you know, I just went there as I got in as press. I mean, my God, it took me an hour to come up with all the stuff that they wanted in order for me to qualify as press, you know, and then to zip it off and make it go bye-bye just because the event was over. Like, what is this? You know, you could have people all over the world watch this 24/7 every day of the week. All they got to do is just pay a small entrance fee. So what, you're not there at the lives. Anyways, I did talk to some of the Tiger guys that were there, and they were saying it was just a big bust. But then I noticed when I went to search, I was just assuming Prismatic was going to be there, and they weren't. So if anything, that should have, you know, let Tiger know that they shouldn't be in it either, because they were the only powder coater.
The crazy thing that, like, the shit that cracks me up about them at like expos, like I've never got to go to an expo and experience it, but like to see their booth and they have like fucking 3,600 colors on the wall, and you're like, dude, 90% of us ain't gonna try to figure out how you formulated that certain teal. Like, you're crazy.
Right. Right. Just give me the teal. Right.
Yeah. Just give me the teal, or I'll just buy the next one over that looks somewhat close enough, and I'll just go a little darker.
Right. Yeah.
I got a quick tip for you. If you guys are ever doing like a candy red or a candy blue and you're having a hard time with it, you know, if you're just spraying like an actual candy instead of an illusion, I've been doing Cadillac gray first, and then like go like 80% cure on the Cadillac gray, and then come into it with the candy red or the blue or green or whatever else, and then go full cure. It is so deep and rich, and you don't have to worry about like the pink and.
Oh yeah, Ross was having problems with brassy gold.
Yeah, that's a good one.
And I wanted to bring it up here. Let me see if I can bring up the.
Was it going copper on you?
No, it was running. It wasn't staying, and it was like, are we having a Faraday? Because it's small parts, right? Mm-hmm. And it's brake handles for some Ducati, or I don't know, or some kind of motorcycle. The guy's from Oahu, so you know it's a big deal when we get these
jobs off of
customers from other islands. You know, we want to impress them. And
what are you using for a base? Or are you going over like raw substrate?
Ross was using the new Prismatic Chrome 2.
Okay.
Because that was what was suggested. And so we'd already wanted to try it anyways. And anyways, so I want to bring this up and share it because Steve from Okinawa, and I know I keep bringing Steve up. He's just so awesome. Where's his? So he posted brassy gold same week, but he did a rim, and let me share my screen because it's absolutely beautiful work, and everybody should follow Steve. He's in Okinawa. He's awesome. And every time he just seems to be improving his work over and over and over again.
Lean.
Yeah. He has stepped it up a notch.
What's he using for a gun?
It's I did see it here. Hold on, he just did one here. Nordson. Look at that.
He's using an Encore.
It surprised me. He was using Nordson, and he doesn't say that.
You know, that's the only gun I haven't got a spray with is the newer Nordson stuff.
Yeah, I think I'm going to have him on the show. Okay, Steve, I know you listen to the podcast. You're invited. I'm going to message you today, but he was helping me out with Ross. Ross is this is just 3 tiny little things. I mean, it's driving him crazy. He's redone it 2 or 3 times.
Well, so like the biggest thing is he going full cure on the chrome?
No, here's what I showed Ross this post today and told him that I talked to Steve about what he used on this rim. And he said chroma chrome. Chroma chrome. What is that?
It might be Tiger Drylock. I
don't know. So I messaged him, but he hasn't messaged me back. But
even Cardinal does a pretty decent chrome too.
Yeah, we usually use Tiger OGF chrome, but
the super chrome too. I did a whole barber chair with it, and I went like fucking 20 minutes over cure on it, and then I cleared it, and then I went from like, I think I went 25 minutes on the clear, and it was fine, but it still goes gray.
Yeah. So Ross looked at this video and he goes, you know what? I bet it's the prismatic chrome. And it's the first time he was using the new chrome too. And I bet you I don't know, that chrome from prismatic, it's temperamental.
It makes me curious because like, okay, so with Super Chrome 1, they were suggesting at nuking the shit at 450 degrees and going full cure.
Right.
That you're fucking burning the shit out of it at that point. Like, I mean, goddamn, we might as well just go grab a chrome wheel and clear it and cook it for 12 minutes at that point. But you know what I mean? It's just like it's that color where you're like, I'm going to give you what I can give you. And if this is what satisfies you, then I'm fucking stoked. At the other end, you're like, it's chemically, it's not, you can't do it. It's just, I mean, how many years have we been spraying this shit? How many renditions have we sprayed? And we all fall for the damn same joke again. It's going to look like chrome. The only thing coming out looking like chrome after you clear everything is the damn hooks you use to hang the shit with. But I mean, at least it looks. At least it's not orange peely as shit this time.
Yeah. Oh man, that could be a whole nother podcast. Maybe that's what we talk about if we get the whole group together. Is
right. Now, okay. So a lot of people think that I had like this huge thing on my paint booth at Precision when I was there, and it was like this Sherman-Williams like guide to troubleshooting, and it was almost comical to me because like some of the things.
Picture of that.
Oh, I think I do. So I was like looking through my phone the other day, and I was like, I swear to God, I have a picture of this thing somewhere. But if you have Sherman-Williams available, or if you have a Sherman-Williams rep, say, hey, can I have one of your guys' troubleshooting posters for powder coating?
If they reply to my email.
Oh fuck, it's hilarious.
Or answer the phone.
Like they're talking about like, if you have, like how you have your pass through in your gun, and then it kinks right there, and you'll get buildup inside there if you don't clean it out and stuff. And they're talking about debris coming out of your gun if you don't clean it, and you're like, this is like one like powder coating 101. Like, did you not blow your gun out 5 colors ago? Like, it's pretty funny.
Yeah. I think it's going to change. I have a feeling if we shout out loud enough, I could get Alex from Cardinal on this, I bet. I could tell you, I was literally shouting on Friday, not this past Friday, but Friday before. I just was like, you don't know me, you don't know custom coders, and you don't even know what you're doing. And they weren't even watching the videos is what I got. And they weren't even aware. And they thought it was a funny thing that the prismatic versus Tiger thing was cool.
Oh, that shit got my blood boiling.
I was like, how dare you bash prismatic?
Okay.
We can bash prismatic.
I'm not trying to talk shit or knock somebody's fucking hustle. But at the end of the day, when you badmouth ink black, or if you just badmouth any gloss black at that point because you're not getting coverage, maybe you should learn how to fucking spray and set up the gun right at the end of the day. Make sure it's grounded properly. Then you might not have those problems. Just saying.
And he was saying how it flashing the light in there, and it's like, dude, you didn't even cover in there. What are you saying? It's a bad powder.
That's why I'm like, you can't badmouth something if you didn't get coverage.
Yeah, I know.
Like if I'm doing a set of wheels and they're like a solid wheel and they're not a custom color and they're like semi-gloss black, you bet your ass I'm hot coating them and then I'm going to coat them again.
You go back to that video, and this is what I brought up. You go back to that video where he's hitting it with a BB gun and running it down the road, whatever it was he was doing. I mean,
I saw some of that on Instagram last night, and I'm just like,
okay, so
dude.
you look at that, and they thought, oh wow, well they're using Tiger. What harm could it do? And I'm like, no, you don't even understand. You stop the video, and you look. This is something that John and I were talking about because we were watching it together, and he was like, look at this video. And I'm like, you look at this, you look at the rim, it's barely got any mill on there. Like it's barely coated.
Yeah, if I'm doing wheels, I want it.
It's not even a big job.
Yeah, I want it like a mill above spec, at least.
I mean, you can see how thin it is. I mean, everybody go back to that video and stop it and look at how thin that is coated. It's not even coated properly. And I don't know. Whatever. It's just silly, but you know, if they want to pander to silliness and stuff like that, or then
I guess at the end of the day, if you look
what he's doing, that he's infuriating the custom coders, the legit guys that are out there, the professionals.
I've spent 11 years of my life getting to this point. Like at the end of the day, I've spent 11 years of my life getting to this point to be able to even talk to somebody in the industry. You know what I mean? Like outside of dealing with reps, like that's like, yeah, okay, that's the industry. But like at the end of the day, like if we have a platform to speak on,
right?
Like I feel like my word and your word speaks way more louder than a rep is going to, because the rep's going to get shut down by a it's a CEO. Like at the end of the day, we're the people doing the actual work. We're the people.
It's insulting. I feel insulted. I know you do.
Yeah, and it's at the end of the day, it's like I've spent, my whole career in the industrial side of things. I spent my whole goal was to make liquid painters look like shit. At the end of the day, that's been my whole goal, because my brother's a liquid painter. My brother's been a collision car painter. He's been a hot rod painter. My brother's painted multi-million-dollar paint jobs on boats. Like,
right.
And my brother is like, I've aspired my finish to look tight and glassy like his. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that rolls into that. There's a lot of knowledge that rolls into paint that you're flying out. There's a lot of knowledge that, where's your power and what's your oven doing. A lot of people don't understand like how much the oven plays in, and if your oven's not clean, you're not going to get a clean product.
Yeah. Yeah. I see the upside, and I see it changing and evolving rapidly. And I hope that the podcast just helps people. That's all I want to do. I'm not making any money. I do have one advertiser, and I hope to get many more, because it does take a lot of time and effort to produce it,
I think once, as time goes on, I mean, think about it. You're what, 3 months into this, and give it another 3 months, give it another, just a year. And you're going to be surprised by the people that are going to come on and the things that are going to get said, and just the things we're going to learn. But you got to think of, it's only going to be a matter of time until Wagner wants to get on here and talk and or even other people. And that's the thing, is I feel like these companies, they want to be out in there and they want to be, conversing all this stuff. But I feel like a lot of these companies don't understand how to, and with how social media is.
You know what the problem is? It's people that are, that have been in the industry, that are just, they've worked for the company for so long, and they're enthusiasts, and they do want to share their information. They are passionate about what they do. They've worked for the company But the problem is it gets trickled. Unfortunately, they're not the ones that we want to talk to, the ones we want to ask questions to, the ones we want to get answers from are not the ones that are readily available. It's sales reps. And that's the problem, that is with these corporations is we don't want to talk to the marketing guy. We don't want to talk to the sales
You want to
rep.
talk to like the chemist Clint from fucking Cardinal.
The guy that's formulating the powder. We want to talk to the guy that's shooting out of the gun and testing the gun or creating a new feature, or we want to talk to those guys.
Yeah. Speaking of that new feature, have you seen Nordson just came out with a gun with a light on top? Yeah.
No.
If you go to like the Act Nordson Instagram page, they just rolled out a newer gun that has a light on top.
Nordson has a Instagram.
Yeah, it's like Act Nordson, so it's like a partnering company with Nordson. So I think Act, so like ACT, they do like, I think they also build something.
Oh yeah, wait, it just came up and there it is.
Yeah, I got big love for Nordson because they were the guns that I first learned on, and those old school Versus Spray 2s were like relentless. You could like drown that tip of that gun into like Faraday areas and it wouldn't make the paint react. It was the weirdest gun. Like you could get away with murder with that gun.
Which video is it?
Yeah, see, look at right there. The second row down there, it is the Encore Enlight LED kit.
You know what? I think I did see it. They post so early. By the time I wake up, I don't see it. I have to actually go to their page.
That and that switch. Look at how they have like the whole white piece is probably like the trigger, but then there's that black piece up in the top of that switch.
Right,
I wonder if
yeah. Right there. Is that
I wonder what that's for. I wonder if that's for like extra air to like get like your tip cleaned out and
enlightened.
Dude, there's just like the technology with guns that's coming out today. I get so excited, but then I'm like, oh wait, you're probably going to be 10 grand.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Ross just, that's actually kind of a really simple solution. He ended up just doing the full LED, and I don't know if I think I posted it on my Instagram. Let me go back to my page.
Do you know anything about Lumilite? They make lights for liquid guns.
No. You mean like HVLP guns?
Yeah, HVLP guns. So like in any of your Iwatas or any of your SATAs, they make LED lights that screw behind the tip of the gun. And I talked to them a couple weeks ago, and they said they got something coming out in the new year for powder coating.
I didn't post this. I don't know why I didn't post this, but let me.
His wheels look good.
Yeah, everybody likes red here.
Yep, red is
black.
You don't want to know how many pounds of candy red I go through.
Oh, I know. It's just a hot color. I don't know.
I don't even order candy red anymore. I prefer deep red candy because then you can avoid some of the issues that you would have with like candies and having to spray it twice.
Well, the lollipop red is nice.
Yeah.
This is cherry.
Mm-hmm.
This diamond.
Yeah, so you could make that cherry with, you put the Cadillac gray down and then just any candy red over it.
Interesting. Yeah.
And you come up with a nice, really rich, deep candy red.
I wanted to show you a picture of the, he's so proud of this. Of course, it doesn't look this clean now, but let me see if I'll stop sharing and then we keep talking. I want to bring up this picture because the problem with our shop is, okay, so we had a small shop, just like everybody always needs more room in their shop, right? But what are you going to do? Because you need to make your business bigger. You need to have bigger equipment. And then all of a sudden you run out of space. So we thought moving over here to the bigger part of the island and being closer to our customer base, we'll get a bigger shop. All our problems will be solved. And then COVID happened. And then that just went out. But instead of downsizing in his mind for equipment, he kept the size, he went bigger in his mind, but the shop size really wasn't, it's only like 200 square feet bigger than what we had before. So the problem is everything in here is giant. It's just giant, but there's no room, shop floor space to work.
That was what it was like when I walked into Precision, and it was like the Taj Mahal of powder coating, you know? And then 6 months into the job, I'm the only painter that's walked in at the time that's pushing, you know, making this place stay alive. And then guess what? There ain't no fucking floor space in this place anymore because you got so much stuff you're doing.
Oh my God. He didn't downsize his mind, right? You know, he only kept it big. So
yeah, I even got a Facebook.
It's just kind of funny, you know, we're in this, I don't want to say it's not a dysfunctional space.
This is some of the bigger stuff that I was doing last year. That's the booth that I was in.
Oh, wait, let me see. Hold on. I went out. I opened up this. Hold on. Oh, wow. That is huge. Whoa. That's giant stuff you're working.
Yeah. And I would do that whole thing hot and then come back and recoat it.
Wow.
So that thing would be preheating in my oven at 420 degrees because it's so big and like the plates on it are just so thick that you're just trying to get it to get up to 400. So I would get it up to, 420, let it sit there for 20 minutes. And then by the time I could get it out of the oven and then pushed into my booth, I would just start spraying it hot and it'd be at like probably 400, 350. And I could get the whole thing done hot and then come back and do it cold.
Wow.
And then put it in the oven. And I would do like 3 of those a day on top of like pushing handrail in between. And I got some crazy videos I'll have to send you.
That's an exhausting day.
Yeah, I would come home and just be done with the world.
Yeah.
Like I'd start at 5 a.m. and sometimes I wouldn't get home till 2 a.m. the next day. Like, and I was the only painter at this shop. Like it was really fun time, but it was also a very like, I felt like I was taken advantage of and a lot of other things. Like once I get into like my story and shit, I'll tell you.
Yeah. Okay. Let me show you the booth here. This is what it turned out to be. Can you see that?
Oh man.
Yeah. He's very proud of this.
Nice gun.
Yeah. He's a Wagner guy.
Heck yes. I love Ross now.
But these are 4,500 looms, LED.
You didn't want any in the ceiling, huh?
This is so bright, you don't need it.
I've always been curious about spraying in a booth that has cross lighting like that instead of ceiling lit.
Well, the reason why he did it like this, because we used to just have a ceiling light in the booth. So we converted a 6x6 spray booth that we'd owned for years when we had our refinishing business.
Yeah, and you guys made it into your open face booth.
Yeah, we created, and then I hope I can zoom in. Let me zoom in because people have asked us what this stuff is, and I didn't get a chance to respond to what Ross bought. But it's a special kind of
like the sack filters.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's
they're like you pull out the whole square, but then it's got like they go back quite a ways.
Yeah. Of course, there's a bigger. Well, it's not a bigger engine. Not engine, but
fan
motor. Yeah, fan motor. It's the same that we had before. But I'll tell you this. He bought these and laid them up like this because of the long linear architectural jobs and gates and railings that we do.
Mm-hmm.
But man, what a difference.
Man, I would love to come out there and spray like a bunch of gates and stuff with you guys. Because that's like, I used to do so much of that kind of work when I was younger. And just to like.
It's a whole nother game.
I can show you how to paint a gate, like a huge driveway gate in less than 30 minutes.
Yeah, wow, that's amazing because it can be awkward. And then how do you, when you're a job shop like us, how do you switch your game from hot coat grids to
that was like a big thing when I was a lead coder. It was like I was very, like being the lead coder, you have to set the tone in the shop. And if you're kind of like the person that, you know, kind of just shuts down and kind of is quiet, you're going to be taking advantage of that aspect of like, let's say I'm painting something that I have to spray zinc primer down, and then I have to flash it just until it's going wet and then pull it out and then start getting top coat on it. And then, you know, the fucking dude from the office comes in and he tells me I got to get off this job and get on this job. Okay, you know how frustrating that is as a coder to fucking just flip on a dime and be like, oh yeah, I'm not stressed out. Now I got to blow my gun out and clean this 50-foot fucking booth out and totally change the operation of what my brain's computing, what my gun's telling me to do. And that's like, I'm super
two manuals. There's two different manuals going on in your head, you know?
Yeah.
Is what you have to, and I never knew that, you know, I'm kind of the one that drives the sales and do this, you know,
and it's like, let's say you're going from just black and then somebody wants you to do some candy job. You're like, ah, here comes the anxiety, you know, like,
right. Yeah.
And I found myself,
and now I do.
I found myself even like at the top of my game, you know, day in, day out, and, you know, in a real shop, I found myself like, let's say like the big weldment that I just showed you that I'd painted, and it's sitting in the oven getting hot for me. Like I would be going stir crazy because I'm just like itching. I'm like ready to just get color on this thing, you know? And like, you're just so excited. And sometimes your emotions and your anxiety and your excitement gets the best of you some days, you know? And like, and then you pull that out and it's not hot enough, or, you know, those things kind of got, you know, can get the best of you. But that's why I like doing what I do now with the custom side of things, is because everything's on my own time. You know, like I can spend up to 6 hours on one tube, you know what I mean? Like, and that's a lot of time and that's a lot of energy going into something so small. But, you know, at the end of the day, I think I try to pride myself in, you know, making somebody look at what I do and being like, no, dude, he's using paint. And at the end of the day, guess what? I ain't using any paint. Zero paint.
It's hard to tell, you know?
All prismatic.
When I saw them originally, I was like, wait, is he painting those? Or, you know, and then I realized it's powder. I mean, it took me a while to I went through several of your Instagram posts. And
there's
stuff.
only one job on there that I did airbrushing on and then cleared it with automotive clear.
I'm going to go back because I want to tell you I want to show you. I'm not a vapor, but my favorite one is the Disney one.
Yeah, those got taken off the shelves. So I'm partnered up. That's really Merle's Mods. They're out of the UK, and I partnered up with them to make my own signature tube. Yeah. And they did a bunch of like Disney dope ones, and we went crazy on them. And he's like, dude, we can't post these now because I think we're going to get too much attention.
Yeah, that could be.
But all I said is like, yeah, I totally understand. I really respect that. But at the end of the day, I feel like, you know, me and you aren't this big company that's really making that much noise to where Disney's going to come out and sue us.
This is, I mean, it's like, well, first of all, you know, Disney's, if you follow like a lot of the crazy conspiracy stuff, you know, like whole Disney connection there.
Yep.
And then it wasn't just, I mean, I didn't realize how many kooky, crazy scenes.
Oh, there's like Alice in there. There's the Mad Hatter in there. Like if you go.
Oh yeah, the Mad Hatter. Okay, yeah, I'm going to go to the video. But this one right here, is the Pinocchio one, you know?
And then there's Mowgli.
I mean, oh my, yeah, Mowgli, that's right.
And then there's the Indian smoking the hash pipe.
I mean, it's nuts, right?
And that's just simple. The black and white inlay, that's super simple.
Yeah, I love the black and white's my favorite one.
Me too. Like black and white's my favorite. That's even what I have on my own.
Matte clear on that, or how?
No, that's just soft satin white and Jack Black from Prismatic.
Oh, okay. All right.
So if you guys are curious on those two, they go perfect together sheen wise.
And so this guy created the graphic. Is that what it is?
So the company Merle's Mods, they're out of the UK. They're the ones that actually machine the tube and do the engraving. And then they have a team of artists throughout the whole world that do a bunch of stuff for us.
Wow. It's, you know,
Keep going down. This is like just cookie cutter stuff. But if you keep going down to.
That's a nice combo.
Yeah, the candy red with silver vein.
Yeah. Whoa.
That's the one the fire one with. That's done with airbrush, and then I cleared it with automotive clear. But that is a black powder coat base. And that Coke cooler is pretty classy. I did that.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then
wow, look at that one.
Yeah, that's my brother's pinstriping work. There's some of the ARs I've done.
Mm-hmm.
That's a big
with powder. Is this with powder or?
Yeah, that's all powder. That's a big.
Wow, that's cool.
That's a big fart gone over in church every time I do a gun.
Yeah. And there it looks like Malbec.
Yeah, that's Malbec. I did that on like a little toolbox kind of thing for my brother.
Whoa, that's cool.
Yeah, it's like a faded black to pink, and then I flip-flop the engravings on the inlay.
Wow. Wow.
Zero liquid.
Ashton, that's amazing.
Did you see those rocket racing wheels I did?
No.
Yeah, keep going.
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Okay. I didn't get, wow, that's nice.
That's my first set of two-tone wheels I've ever got to do. You know how long I've been dreaming about doing that?
Those are nice colors that you used.
So that's Misty Root Beer from Prismatic, and then Yankee Gold.
Nice. Did you put it up on your Prismatic page? Do you have one?
I think I do, but you guys were saying something about it in one of the episodes that I was watching. I need to go in and do some of that stuff.
I'm going to do, I'm getting ready to do a podcast, or I don't know if it's a podcast really, but it's like a tutorial, I guess. I'm going to start kind of doing more different kinds of content other than just the podcast.
Yeah, you guys have definitely inspired me to kind of like come out of my shell and post like lives or videos of me, what I'm doing. Like with like the tubes and stuff. Like I don't know. I felt like I needed to like stay quiet for a while because I didn't want people to like steal my ideas just yet. And I feel like now, like even just coming on the show, like I felt like now I'm confident enough, and I feel that I have, quite the backlog of work that I
if anything,
find to come out now, you know what I mean? And be in the industry and just kind of show my work off to like, I've kind of just kept it behind. And even locally, I do a lot of work locally for like antique restoration and stuff like that. But I just haven't really hit the pavement to, have people banging down my door just yet, because I want to be really ready for it. You know what I mean? Like,
well, isn't that what's so ironic about 710? And I'm not going to bash them any longer. I'm over it. But here's the thing. Most custom coders like yourself, like Ross, like Sean, and, they're humble people. They don't go out and be bombastic and all this stuff. So that right there might tell you something about the kind of type of people we are.
I'm just like, at the end of the day, like before I'm a powder coater, before I'm a husband, I'm a father to 2 children. And they're the main driving force behind Palmer's Powders. Like I walked away from the industrial industry because, I would get scrutinized because I had to stay home with my children because she was sick, or my son had a doctor's appointment. And, bosses don't like that. They don't like you when you're making them money. They don't want you out of there. Like, and that's kind of what it came down to. And at that time, like that black and pink mod that I was showing you, I got a job from a big vape reviewer that's from Australia. And he's commissioned me to do like 38 of those mods. So I did like 19 pink, and then I did like 17 or so black. And that's really what kind of set me up social media wise, and like got my name out there, within the vape industry to start doing custom work. So I was going to work, full time, spraying all damn day. And then I'd come home and I would do these mods. And after a while, it got to this point, you know, where so much noise is going off over here outside of work. And I'm just kind of like getting stressed, you know, like feeling like I'm taken advantage of. Like, you know, I was working almost 6-7 days a week. I was working 10 to 12 hour, if not 15-hour days, just depending on what, you know, what had to get done and how much the freaking boss bit off more than he can chew. And it was like, you know, I just said, fuck it. And, you know, I grabbed everything. I walked in Sunday, grabbed my mask, grabbed my gun. And my boss was like, where are you going? And I said, I'm fucking leaving, dude. And I'm done. I am done. And I walked out and I never looked back. And around that same time, my brother was just getting his shop, and he was like, come set up your bench and stuff in here. And he's like, we can just share the shop together. Yeah. And I was like, okay. So then at that same time, I had bought my bench top setup, my Columbia coatings, you know, Cool Coat booth and little tiny, you know, bench top setup. And that was going to be my new coating setup for my mods. So I ordered that, and then I got a little like impulsive because I was still making, you know, decent salary money for my real job. And I was like, fuck it. I bought one of those OptiFlex 2 clones from the powder coating gun chick. You know, I trust you so much. She's so rad. She helps me out a lot. And ordered one of those guns and just been killing it ever since with that thing.
Yeah.
That was after my Craftsman gun went, because I was spraying all these mods with a Craftsman gun for like 2 years.
Wow. We started with the Eastwood thing, like just.
I'm sorry.
At the very beginning. Well, $180. I mean, can't beat that. It was 180, and we didn't know. Again, you know, this was just hobby side, right?
Right.
And
just trying to figure out the concept of it. It's mind blowing.
Right?
Even when you do it with like that gun, and you may have done a tumbler or something for yourself, and you're just like.
Well, our shop was right next door to a custom motorcycle shop. They did mostly customs and Harleys and stuff.
Nice.
And I mean, we've told several stories, and there are several stories to how we got into this business, but one of them is that we just were convenient, you know, and so Ross had been going to all the forums and stuff, and, you know, so he decided to pull the trigger on, but, you know, I mean, our main thing was just refinishing and stuff. This is well before the crash and all that. So he started with that, and then of course, you know, that didn't last very long. And then, you know, we had the infrared, or the propane lights, or what are they called? They're on the stands.
Oh, the infrared lights.
The heat lamps.
Oh God, those things scare me. Like I remember I worked for
a paint shop with like polyurethane and.
Oh, I have like a nightmare story about those things.
I was worried, right? Anyways, so the reason why we started with that is because most of the air conditioning registers were, you know, that's what we were getting, right? We had this one hotel that was renovating, and, you know, they had a special custom size made. And so ordering was improbable or impossible to get something new and be reasonable. So we got into refinishing the AC registers. And so we would have these heat lamps, and some of these registers were like 30, 40 inches long. So literally, like, we'd watch the powder flow out as we dropped the thing down, you know.
Mm-hmm.
That was, you know, we didn't have an oven. We didn't have, you know, a nice, cool gun or anything like that. It was just crazy how we just made steps towards that. And I didn't care what he was doing. I thought, oh, this is just one of those other hobbies that he's picked up. And
this is another thing, another garage thing.
Yeah. You know, and of course he had a custom bike that he had bought off of somebody that for a real good deal. So of course, you know, he had his own project, just like all the other guys that are getting started right now. It's a similar story.
Mm-hmm.
And then he decided to get serious, and he bought a Wagner, brand new, $5,000. And I'm like, whoa, this shit is expensive. This isn't an HVLP gun that costs $99 at Home Depot. And,
Well, it's even like, I even make my brother laugh. Like, he's got $700,000, Iwatas and Setas that he does his work with. And I just laugh. I laugh at him. And I'm like, dude, I could buy like 5 or 6 of those things for the amount of 1 unit of mine.
Yeah. And then, what happened was the Wagner was too complicated for him.
Yeah. So even to this day, if he needs help, call me. I will answer any given damn time of the day and help you with that gun, because that gun is so user friendly compared to what is actually.
Well, now this is our second Wagner now, but he got scared using it because it was so complex. So he went from Eastwood to Wagner. And then he got scared and something happened to it, like it broke or I don't know, some part, I don't know. So he kind of shelved it and he bought the Cool Coat from Brian Talley, Columbia.
Yeah.
And he used that. That was a great intermediate kind of level.
It taught you how to adjust your flow and your air and your powder. And it gave you like the basics of understanding what you're watching. And that's like the big thing is nobody really relays that information of what you actually want to see comparatively to what you don't want to see, and a lot of it actually it comes off of feel, a lot of it comes off of feel experience. But at the end of the day,
what the jobs were just getting more complex. They were getting more, and then, of course we ran that thing into the ground and then, things started to get kind of, just growth and everything. And that's when we decided, okay, let's get back to this Wagner. Let's try to figure it out. What's the problem? I know a lot more about KVs and clouds and, like all that stuff.
The cool thing about that gun is it's got slope adjustment.
Well, I don't know how old this one was. This was like, I want to say we bought it.
The one you guys got now in that spray booth.
Oh, that's the new one.
That's the Sprint X. That's got slope adjustment. You got you got every damn cool setting on that gun, and it's really honestly it's user friendly, and that gun will tell you if you're setting because what that gun is telling you is it's telling you like how close you have your tip to your substrate. Mm-hmm. So even if you do have your setting wherever you want it, that gun's going to dial down. Even if you get like this close to the substrate, that gun's going to be like, no. I'm going to come back down here where it's safe. It's pretty damn cool.
That is cool. I'm pretty sure he knows that, but I'll make sure he listens to what you just said. He loves that gun. He loves it. But
it's cool because you can also set up that gun to actually spray true to a conical tip because it's got air adjustments for the tip and you can mimic tribo through that gun.
Okay. So he's now interested in comparing now. He wants to try gamma or whatever they call it. And,
I'm curious to try their new Pro. The new Gema OptiFlex Pro. Yeah. I'm curious to try it, but when it comes down to it, and at the end of the day, there's certain things about their pump that I don't care about comparatively to the Wagner pump. Like, the Wagner pump is a block and it's still fucking dinosaur age technology in a sense, but the plugs, the little white plugs that go in the block for the Wagner, they're completely movable. So the Wagner or the Gema ones are, they only go in one way. So they wear one way.
Okay.
So you're constantly flying through them tips. You can't wear that tip evenly. And then even though same thing with the Gema, or not the Gema, but the Wagner, your hose is going to kind of slouch. So that white piece will wear, but that's just the name of the game.
Yeah. I mean, they're not, it's just design and how they make them and why they make them, and let's face it, they're making them for the industrial people. They're not making them for us, right? We're adapting to them again,
It would be sweet if they would come out with like a little bit smaller scale of a gun for us custom coders.
That would be a good option. That would be a really good idea.
And even if you think about it, like when we get into like these custom colors and we're recoding candies and stuff, we don't need a gun that's going to give us fucking 100, KVs. We're never that high. You should never be that high if you're recoating something anyways, unless you're doing it hot.
Right.
But at the end of the day, it would be kind of cool to see, you know, a little scale down in a gun and maybe more aptitude to custom stuff.
Yeah.
And who knows? And like maybe if a gun isn't that aptitude to be that high of a power, then you're going to see a lot more production shops using it for those colors. So it does have, there's a win-win, you know, if you think about it.
I think that's brilliant, you know. So, you know, it's all about trying to get through to these people and get that, what you just said to them, you know, through to them, and maybe get their minds thinking.
Even though like when I was a production painter, that was like the biggest thing that was hard for me was relaying my information. You know, like trying to explain my information to somebody that's 100 times book smarter than me, but isn't 100 times experience smarter than me. It was like, you're just sitting there bashing heads all day. And that's, you know, unfortunate. That's where like our industry has came to on the industrial side of things. But, you know, we have the opportunity, you know, as custom coders to break this mold, you know, and I'm excited to be a part of that.
As much as they want to give that information or relay that information back to the guy that matters, all they really have to do, or their main part of their job is equal to dollars sold. It's not improving or, hey, this is a great idea, or, you know, Ashton from, you know, over here said this or that, you know, you might want to think about. It's not about innovation. And that's the problem, right? Innovation is in our industry is top down. It's not bottom up. And this is the stuff that I'm trying to scream and shout at every chance I get. This is why we started the podcast, is to get that information. Let's have a discussion about it. Let's meet these guys. Let's tell them what we want, and let's get the price down lower. Let's get the barrier to market. Let's get, you know, something that is unique and tell our story and share our story. And by sharing it, we're going to improve the industry. You know?
I mean, at the end of the day, we've obviously seen China cut obviously the quality of a gun that's coming out of Switzerland is going to be 10 times higher than the gun coming out of China. But at the end of the day, if China can figure out how to program a gun to run almost identical to the one that's actually real.
Yeah.
Like, why is there just this weird misconstrued of, you know what I mean? Like, I'm surprised we haven't seen.
It's crazy that they're doing that. They're reaching out to us directly now, right?
Yeah.
Whether they speak in broken English or not. And here we have just put the nail in the head right here and just said, come up with a lower priced quality product that we'll buy, because we'll rather buy that than something from China.
Mm-hmm. No? Same here. Because you know how at the end of the day, you know how much of a pain in the ass it is for me to order tips or order any other parts for my gun. And I at the end of the day, I don't want to pay the cost for a real tip. I don't want to pay $200 for a tip.
Right.
I don't want to pay $200 for my inline. Like, it's. And that's,
they could, you know, I'm all for keeping things in the United States.
Me too.
For China, I don't think any of us are, but I could be. Maybe there are some people that think.
It's just crazy to me that we haven't seen, like, it's just crazy to me that we haven't seen like a paint company, a liquid paint company, produce a powder gun yet. Like even like PPG, and how PPG is so involved with so many different applications, from liquid to industrial to marine to powder. They're pretty all over the place, and for them to not see that there's like this huge market for an applicatable gun, that's
well, all I can tell you is China's knocking on the door. I don't think we're answering the door because we know it's a vampire.
Right.
And we're not going to invite the vampire in, but you know, I mean, they're trying. And they're eventually going to, you know, and there are people out there that are already buying China stuff just because they don't realize the deeper thing that's going on here with that. But, you know, and
it's mind blowing to me that we haven't seen a lawsuit.
But, huh?
I said it's surprising to me that we haven't seen a lawsuit with GEMA, like, because how many times has that gun been knocked off?
Right.
How many people are knocking that gun off? Like, if you think about it, at the end of the day, there's like 10 different brands with that name on that gun.
Question to ask them.
It's crazy. Like
they rolled their eyes when I'm meeting with them next week, so I probably should be careful. But you know, he rolled his eyes at me the other day when I said, "Yeah, we want to do a Wagner GEMA show off," you know, like comparison, because that's the biggest question, right? That people ask, you know. And he just kind of rolled his eyes, you know, like how many times has he heard that, or, you know, whatever. And it's like,
well, at the end of the day, we all know people are going to go buy the Wagner because it's cheaper.
Yeah. So, you know, but people want that video. They want that comparison. They want that review.
That and the Wagner isn't out there. Like, people don't necessarily know about it unless you're in the industry. Like, people first coming into powder coating, all they really know is GEMA, because that's all fucking people talk about.
Right.
You know what I mean? And it's like,
it's definitely more broad than Wagner and Nordson and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, but I know they're kind of rolling their eyes, but at the same time, it's like, no, this is
you're selling units because of people want to do this.
Right.
You know what I mean? At the end of the day, all this talk, all it's doing is selling their gun, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, I think the China thing is going to be interesting how it unfolds.
I think it'll phase out. It's not gonna. Just from like my experience with vaping, like a lot of the stuff from, you know, vaping is obviously manufactured in China, and you see a lot of that. You see a lot of companies get knocked off from China, and it's around for a little bit, and then it just fizzles out. And the only reason why you're seeing a lot of it right now is because of the high demand in garage coating, and people don't want to pay box price for Cool Coat's version of what they could get for whatever, you know, else prior to having to wait for shipping. You know, it's.
Yeah. I can tell you personally, like with the projects that we get here, of course, well, they call it patio furniture, probably on the mainland, but we call it lanai furniture.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, we work with Tropitone, Windsor, Brown Jordan, did I say Tropitone? Tropitone. These are all U.S. made manufacturers, and I can get replacement parts from almost any year, any style, any year. People call us, they got these condos, they want to redo their lanai furniture, and they call me and I go, well, where'd you buy it? Oh, I bought it. It's Martha Stewart, or it's Lowe's or Home Depot. And I'm like, throw it away. They're like, but what? I paid $300 for this set, you know? And it's like,
and the coating that you see and coming on it is like
paint.
Literally, well, or it's like rusted so bad because of their fucking process sucked and like the whole chair's rotting.
Yeah. I can't get replacement parts. China only makes things to sell us, to throw away, metal or plastic or anything. They don't make things to replace. Okay. Exactly. Only in America do they make something
right,
like Tropitone. We've done Tropitone furniture that is 40, 50 years old, and we can find replacement parts. It still looks great, and we're going to give it a finish that's going to last another 10 years. You know, and you cannot do that with China. They don't think
those were some of my favorite jobs to do, was like when this older lady would come in and she's like, oh, I just want some really nice, you know, off-white or some beige, and you find the right color she likes, and then she's all tickled pink about it, and then she shows up and it looks brand new, and she's like, can't breathe because like her patio furniture is brand new again, and now she's telling her husband he's got to make new cushions for it. That's like, that's the best day, you know, like when I could care less about my handrail customer that's bringing me shitloads of money, but that old lady that's more tickled pink about her, you know, her seashell chairs that she got when she was 15 in the 50s look brand new again. It's great fun.
And I love it too, because I can't wait to tell the guy that owns the vacation rental here in Maui that they bought the wrong furniture from Lowe's or Home Depot. And now you have to throw it away, even though it's only 2 years old, because I can't get a strap or a sling to fix it.
Yep.
And you're going to throw it in our dump, you know, in our in our trash on our island and go out and buy another cheap ass set. And now you're going to add to our trash problem because you didn't buy USA made. You can't restore it. And I make them feel as bad as I can and make them guilty. And,
well, and at the end of the day, like when it comes down to it, we live in such a disposable world now. We're programmed to buy a new smartphone every fucking year, or
right.
our flat screen TV we bought 5 years ago is already broken. Like we live in such a disposable society now. And that's like what, it's like I had somebody ask me the other day, well, what do you think about wrapping my truck? And I'm like, you're asking the wrong person. And they're like, well, why is that? And I'm like, I'm trying to keep a dying art alive, and people that are wrapping vehicles and stickering shit are killing my industry. They're killing the artist and me because they want to take my art and put it on a fucking sticker and not have to do anything. Like, and that's, it boils down into a lot of things, and that's unfortunate, but that's why we're here. And that's why we're around, is to keep things alive and keep things new again.
And I think that's, how powder coating just aligns so well with how Ross and I feel about the world and about our island. And
so are they big sticklers about TGIC on the island, or is that kind of, you guys are still with American laws?
Yeah. It's not like Europe.
Yeah,
no, it's not even that. And I mean, I don't know how much we do. I imagine it's the majority of the powders that we use, but you'd be
surprised how much, even you'd be surprised today of how much is people don't use it anymore.
Yeah. Well, I know the industry is trying to change it and go in that,
I hope to God we still have some TGIC 25 years from now, because it's fucking amazing, but it's pretty dangerous.
I mean, with the extreme conditions that we have here, it's very hard to recommend something else.
What do you like, for a question for you guys is, what do you guys spray a lot? Like, what do you guys mostly spray, like big box wise?
Brand wise?
Yeah.
Tiger.
Crazy.
And that's what infuriated me so much last week when I talked to them, because I was like,
have you not sprayed much Cardinal, or is Cardinal kind of hard for you to get?
No, it's not hard for me to get. I have to email them. So it's a bit of a back and forth. We have samples here, and we usually wait for the customer to request it.
Right.
I don't know what that is. I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that our Tiger was one of the first people to reach out to us and send us brochures when we were getting going.
Mm-hmm.
They have an incredible line of bronzes, which are very popular here.
Mm-hmm.
We have red dirt, and it gets everywhere. So like whites and light colors and stuff, other than if it's on a rim, people tend to gravitate toward the darker colors just to hide the dirt and stuff. And, it just happened that I had a rep at Tiger at the time that was just very willing.
I would think because we have Cardinal has a distribution hub here in Washington in Woodland. So I would assume like either that or California would be.
They usually ship out of California for us. And I think that I don't know how you order. This is kind of this would be a great question for a group forum. And that is, how do you guys handle your pricing? How are you building in the powder pricing? Are you, for us, it's like, well, if you special order for a gate or a railing, you're going to buy that box, whether I use the whole thing or not. And then if you want it, you can have it, but it's going to end up on my shelf anyways. Right. So,
yeah. So like, obviously I would say that's any powder coating shop's like problem, trying to deal with excess paint. Like in the industrial side, any powder shop I've ever been to, unless it's some kid that's like bought his own paint and brought it in.
Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore. Forget that. We've had some bad stuff happen to us.
Yeah,
we don't know how old it is.
Yeah, and I've had issues with that too. But that's really like the only time that I would give the paint back. But for me, coming like from my side of things, like I'm such a an abnormal coder compared to like everybody else in the industry, I would say. So I buy colors to bring colors to market. So like what I'm doing is I'm trying to, obviously I'll do stuff on, if somebody sends me something to do, it's my job to pick their brain apart, see what they want style wise. And then I'll be like, suggest this, or this, or unless they have like a good idea, then I'll roll with it and kind of put my twist on it. But for mainly, I just buy by the pound. So like, or 2 pounds. So like, I don't really go through a lot. I'm not having to put on a lot of millage with what I'm doing, obviously. And so a pound goes a long ways for me. At the end of the day, I buy paint just to have in stock to play with, to learn. I'm constantly experimenting. I'm constantly learning. I'm constantly trying to figure out, which colors won't chemically work together, being that, certain fluorescents don't like to be inlaid on top of with certain other colors, and they'll just go different.
You're going deep down the rabbit hole there, because most people have that,
And a lot of it also like ties back into like with like the elaborate inlay working I'm doing. I'm racing against the clock of gel time. So literally you're inlaying within your gel time, but you're also like almost on that verge of 80%. So you're not going to get delam issues, but you're also not going to get like molding issues where you're getting other colors bonding to colors and then creating another one. You know what I mean? So you're constantly playing this fucking window game and not trying to go too far before you're going to actually final set everything.
Yeah. I mean, it's one of those, your items, and that's the thing, you have to be so precise. There really isn't any room for mistakes at all on your level.
So if I told you, when you think I do my inlay work, do you think it's done with electricity?
No, I can see some of it isn't, but I'm just saying in terms of the product, like you've got one shot and you cannot make a mistake at all,
Yeah. And that's like sometimes you'll make a mistake and you're like, strip tank, here we go, start all over, and that's the benefit. I'm not doing like a wheel, or I'm not doing, somebody's big bumper or something at the time. Like I do have that I have like obviously my benchtop setup, and then I also have my 4x4x6 convection big electric. So that's been nice because I'm contracted with a lot of these cap makers, like Beecher from Coil Turd. I do his caps. M-Turk from M-Turk. I do his caps. I do a lot of big name people's stuff. So like my background of doing, production work and being in a production shop doesn't, it doesn't stress me out. When I have 400 to 1,000 caps in my living room that I got to process within a week, I'm like, let's go. Like money, like it's, I'm not at any point I'm not uncomfortable, but I think the only times when I really do get nervous is like when I'm doing one job and it's been like a couple days and I'm a little shaky or, or
so you also sell, like you're also selling like your.
So like with what I do, I'm selling just a service, obviously. Like I'm a powder coater, but what people would do is, since they would, like if they had a certain mod, like these are mechanical mods. There's no board. There's no electronical regulated board in these. These are all mechanical. They're unregulated. And with that, people like to personalize them, or, there's certain brands that people are super loyal to, or, there's just like anything. There's people that like this company or that company, and there's all walks of life in this industry, and they all like to personalize them. And that's where I came in and kind of turned the industry upside down and was like, this is what I can offer. And it just kind of blew up to where, now I have people all over the world sending me their setups to coat one of one for them. It's special to them.
But I'm surprised you're not selling them either. Like,
so yeah, that's like, it's a big taboo thing in the sense of like, with my website, I don't want to have it to be like 21 plus age.
I see.
You know what I mean? So like, I don't want to get down that rabbit hole of like having to deal with like the age restriction and you know what I mean? Like really like the whole mod thing was my meal ticket to get me into the industry, to be doing wheels and to be doing lift kits and doing, the things that I've been doing for the last 10 years. But guess what? Like I don't have 20 grand to go buy a big oven and buy a gun and buy a nice booth. And because if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it right. And everything I've done, I've never done it. I've never gotten a loan. It's all been out of pocket. Like job comes in and I get extra money. Cool. It's going back into the business.
Scale. Yep. That's how you scale.
Or, obviously it pays to keep the lights on and food in my children's tummy.
Right. Yeah.
And, and that's really at the end of the day, this is like the meal ticket to me, getting a booth big enough to spray wheels in comfortably. And that's like, I can do it, but right now it's like kind of sketchy putting my cart in front of my little tiny booth top bench booth and spraying one wheel at a time and then like racking it over here. And it's not like it's not doable, but I don't want to get, an hour into a wheel and then have like a little piece of debris in it. And I'm like, going crazy. So I'm just taking my time. And I feel like, with other coders in the industry, it's like they don't take their time. They're not taking their time, perfecting their process. They're not perfecting their environment. And that's where you're going to run into issues. Like, certain things can't be done correctly if you don't have the right environment to do it in. Like I have the right environment to do these little toys in all fucking day. But when it comes down to doing big stuff, I got to shut the whole shop down, clean it down, and make sure a door's open. So I'm getting all my shit going in my little tiny booth. But that's the goal, is to get a bigger booth and be I want to get a bigger booth so where I can be doing wheels and then I can hire somebody within like the vape industry that I'm friends with and give them a job and have them kind of take over the mod coding side of things.
Yeah.
So I can keep going and
vision.
Yeah, I would like to be like, I want to give Sean a little run for his money. And, you see a lot of like Zach Pinnock and Lacey Blair, they're doing a lot of cool work. And I want, I want to be up there with those names, and I want to be kind of turning some heads and giving a little bit of run for their money. Yeah,
I'd like to have them on the show at some point. I know they're big heavy hitters.
That dude, Zach, does some insane work.
He does, yeah. But I think it's not just that he's at another level. I don't know his whole story, so I'm not going to speak too much.
Right.
Really.
Just from what I see, it's like, I see a lot of hard work went into what he's doing, and he's obviously, it's paid off, and it's cool to see somebody stay humble, put out good content, and hear no drama from it. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm after, is good organic content. And that's what I follow. I'm not going to follow fucking fake wannabe shit.
Well, I think when you're at that level too, you're given opportunities. Like you were saying, you're working with some of the top vape people in the industry.
Yeah.
I think he's also on that level in his realm, right?
Right.
He's been given the opportunity to make the rims for, a SEMA truck or this or that, and that's boosted his profile and stuff, we all need inspiration for sure. I think there's more than one person or one girl and I think that's why I'd love to have Lacey or any
that's like a big thing. Like the impact of women coming into this industry.
Impact of women,
very fucking rad. Like, don't stop. Keep going. Don't stop. Don't let any dude with a dick between his legs tell you otherwise. Keep fucking kicking ass.
Yeah, I agree. And I'm really just, I haven't met the right girl yet. And I'm just going to do a shout out that if you are that girl, I want to hear from you. I did email Lacey if she's ever listening to this podcast. I did email her, but I didn't hear back from her yet. But, there's a process. You have to engage with them on social media. They have to know who you are before they're going to even respond to some dorky email from like, who are you? But I did notice that you follow the utensil guy.
Yeah, me and him are good friends, man. He's a big inspiration to me with what he's doing with powder. I feel like he kind of follows the same thing I do. He wants to see powder come to a different form. Like for me, I'm inspired by my brother's airbrushing. Obviously, I'm not doing stencil work like he is. Like I've kind of stayed away from that because I don't want to step on his toes in any way, because the level of stencil work that he is bringing to this industry is like I have so much respect for that guy. I have so much love for that guy.
I don't know how he does it. I don't know how.
Did you see that CP3O bottle he did with like 5 different colors and it's got purple and stuff in it? I'm like, dude, you're making my hair. I'm pulling my hair out looking at your work.
Here's the thing here's the rub. I look at his profile and I only see like a few hundred people following him. And I'm like, what the fuck? Like how? Oh my God.
He's using the same booth I am.
You know, how is he not having like 3,000 followers, 4,000 followers like you? Because I think that's incredible what he does. And anybody listening, please go over there right now and
yeah, the utensil guy and the utensil company. I've noticed he hasn't been doing much on his page, the utensil guy page, much lately. He's been really, I think him and his wife have been really focusing on like the company page.
Yeah, let's bring him up because I want to, okay, this is your page. So let's go here and then we'll Google.
Facing his name right now.
Here we go, Aaron. Okay.
Yeah, big shout outs to Aaron.
This stuff is incredible. I mean, you can see this for weddings or for wedding gifts. I mean, everything he does is just insane. It's so puffy, and yet you can see the lines clearly. It baffles me how he does this.
The thing that gets me off about his work is when you look at the millage between his parts, you can see how much he's stacked it, and you're like, yes, you did it.
That's what I'm saying. Like, oh my God, my daughter would love this. This is like Serena from what's that? Oh my God, one of the first. I might have to buy that. It's like one of the first anime we used to watch was the Sailor Moon.
Yeah, a lot of the Simpson donut stuff, like all the cups, and he's just been killing it lately.
I wanted to get that for my daughter's fiance. He loves the Joker. I mean, it just goes on and on. The creativity coming out of this guy is insane, you know?
Oh yeah, and this is like his page isn't really. You should go look at the utensil company page. The utensil company page has more of their.
That one.
That has more of their recent work, and that's where you're going to be able to buy his stuff. And
oh, here we go. Okay, maybe I'm following the wrong Instagram. Oh, here we go.
Hold your breath because he's got a bunch of new stuff that just dropped. That's
right
insane.
Now.
Like the Duff beer mugs.
How has he got only 200 followers? But okay, it's here. This is the main page.
Yeah, and then he's got videos of him pulling his stencils and stuff. I messaged him the other day. I'm like, bro, why are you sharing your secrets right now?
I couldn't do that. But at the same time, Ashton, I couldn't do that, or my husband wouldn't have the time. You know, it's not for everybody, you know?
Right.
And oh my God, that is insane.
Yeah,
is he like you, where he does he sell these and you buy them?
Yeah, so like I encourage you guys to go to their website, buy all their mugs, buy all their utensils, because this dude busts his ass and he is so kind.
Like he does, yeah.
And like prior, like to talking to him, like last summer, he was me and him started talking quite a bit, and he would have problems, like he was having Faraday problems in some of the mugs he was doing. And I was like, no, dude, like drop your KVs here, put your air here, and then tell me what you think, and then switch to a different tip. He messaged me back, and he's like, I've been dealing with this for so long. He's like, thank you so much. And then he like kind of taught me some of his tricks, and he was actually supposed to come up here, and we were supposed to do some stuff together, but with COVID happening and so on and so forth, they didn't end up making it up this way this year. So
that's insane.
Yeah, the freaking Iron Man one is nuts.
And where is he based out of?
I want to say they're like an RV couple. So they like travel all over the place.
Oh, you're kidding.
Yeah. So I don't know. The last time I talked to him, he was telling me he was in Texas somewhere. And then I think I seen him that they were in California or something, but.
Wow. Talk about crafting a life. That's crazy. Yeah.
Well, what they were doing is they were chasing all these like, art festivals and stuff. And like up here in the Northwest, we have like Art on the Green, and we have a lot of car shows and stuff. So I could see them going to a lot of these shows and really selling out, in my opinion. Like they would kill it.
Look at that.
Yeah, his Mando work is insane.
Oh my goodness.
He taught me that wipe technique too. So some of the work that you see, I use a little bit of his technique, and then he uses some technique that I've taught him how to use too. Just from talking. And that's like kind of the thing, is like I've kept a lot of what I do to myself, but when somebody's doing work like this, I'm like, bro.
So, I mean, so you pay for the tumbler. Let's just pick that, add it to the cart. Okay, so 115. That's still like such a good price for the amount of labor
That's dirt
involved.
cheap. That's so cheap.
I can't.
Like even my mugs, like I'd charge for a mug like this that's like faded and galaxied, and this even has glow in the dark clear on it.
Yeah.
I'd charge like $50 for that.
For the work part, not the.
No, for the mug and everything, because this is just the cheaper Arctic Trail ones.
Oh, okay.
Or
All
the
right.
Ozark Trail or whatever, not the Yeti.
Yeah.
That's when it starts getting spendy, is when you start doing this stuff on Yeti mugs.
Right. Yeah, because it's such an expensive product, but they're popular, right? So, yeah, this is everybody needs to go check that guy out. I've been following him for at least a year or so. But I'm glad you rerouted me to the correct one, because
I was kind of worried about him for a minute because I didn't see much work coming out of him. And I'm like, what the heck? Where's all of his work at? And then my wife was like, no, he's been posting stuff on like the business page lately. And I'm like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Because I was thinking, why does he not, I saw his posts and he's using hashtags and stuff, but I'm like, how come?
Well, even for the longest time, I had a lot of good work out there too. And up until I got plugged into the right community with people and people started shouting me out, and, it takes time, like I didn't reach 1,000 followers. It took me like 7 years to get to 1,000 followers. And then once you hit 1,000, it's like overnight it's nothing. Like everything seems so simple beyond that point. And like, to be honest with you, that's not why I'm here. That's not what I do. It's not, I'm not here for the follows. I'm not here to be famous. I'm just here to be happy. And that was like really my main goal of starting my own business, is to be able to wake up and be happy, to be able to be there at any given chance for my children, and to really, I think the thing of just being in the industry for, a good 10 years and seeing that me as a production painter, a lot of people wanted my work, but at the end of the day, people either didn't want to wait for, the time of me getting to their jobs, being in a big production shop, how long stuff takes to get done. And, after being through 3 different shops, dealing with 3 different, employers, 3 different formats of how to run a powder shop, I felt like I had a good enough idea of where I wanted to go. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to be able to cater towards the mom and pop people. I wanted to be able to cater towards those people that they actually want to pay you a little extra money to get that better, that better finish. They don't want some white, handrail with black in it, or, like they're going to come to me for my experience and my time. And I kind of pride myself in that. I run my shop off of time and materials. So like my shop rate is $65 an hour, and I'll run time and materials. And I can pretty much tell you, if like you bring me 4 wheels, they're going to take me like 4 hours, 5 hours.
Right. At least. Yeah, exactly.
And, give or take, if I have to strip them and blast them, and then they have to be in the oven for an hour or two to thermal clean correctly, then, that's what it is. But, I'm going to explain that to you, and the shop down the road isn't going to explain that to you. And the shop down the road isn't going to show you how clean the inside of their sandblast cabinet or their sandblast booth is, and that's the thing, is people don't understand that 90% of the work is your sandblasting and the material you're using. Like I go the extra length, and I use garnet. I use expensive material because, for one, it doesn't create too much dust. 2, it doesn't break down as fast. And 3, the profile you get from garnet is next to nothing, in my opinion. So
just had that last week not last week, but the last episode, we talked about that.
I've used a lot. I've used Clean Blast. I've used Green Diamond. They all, copper slag, they all work good. They all have their right place, but I got spoiled with using garnet at the last shop I was at, and I was like, I'm not going to switch to anything else or back to anything else. It's worth the money, in my opinion.
It is totally, yeah. And I mean, he said on the podcast, that's Jeff Taylor, and I'm actually going to interview him tomorrow. No, it's Monday. We're going for another round, and that the benefits of garnet, and it's more expensive, but then he was saying, oh, you need to change it out like every 4 to 5 times, and I'm like, no, we're stretching it a little longer than that. That's how much you would want us to replace it.
Yeah,
but we're stretching it out just a little bit longer than that.
it's just the severity of the cleanliness of it that I like the most about garnet. And it's just at the end of the day, if I don't have to stress about, what's in my broken down material, then I'm not stressing when it comes to putting paint on this wheel or whatever it may be,
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing that people don't stress enough on is, like, if you go to a production shop and you have a set of aluminum wheels for your Roadster or something that you've spent your hard-earned money on, the last thing I want is some coating shop to sandblast a bunch of carbon steel before they did my aluminum wheels and then impregnate my aluminum wheels with a bunch of carbon. And that's the thing, like, where I learned a lot to where almost as a coder, it makes you like second guess yourself almost, and it almost sucks to be the coder that knows too much, because then you're just always constantly worried about what's going to go wrong, and I think if you just kind of take a breath, take your time and just make sure every step of your process is foolproof, from even washing to even cleaning, like to hanging your product. Like that's the big thing that even, to 10 years down the road that drives me nuts is when I see hang points.
Yeah.
Like hang marks. And
it's constantly like, that is the challenge, right? When you're given something, it's like, what's going to give you the least amount?
But still give you great ground.
But yeah, right.
And that's, we're constantly fighting between that. And
it's not easy to teach that too. We had that going on with our employee where we were like, okay, think this through, how are you going to do this?
And that was like that's one thing I preach on, especially when you're doing big fucking weldments, is like, I've already in my head prior to even going into that sandblast building, I've already up and down that thing 20 times, and I've already come up with a process of where I'm going and what I'm doing. Because, a lot of the stuff I would paint hot, when you're in a production shop, you're doing stuff hot to get the millage on there and to get the product in the oven faster, and that's really the goal. And like, I miss the days of the hustle and bustle, but then again, I realize, like, I don't miss coming home with 300 pounds of zinc and black in my hair.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, yeah. Some of the things that we're doing with this new shop is sort of hybriding our ovens right now.
That's rad.
So yeah, we've got a little bit of a small little Frankenstein back behind this wall here, and it's small enough that if we made the mistake or miscalculated or whatever, but so far it has improved cure times or just production times on rims and everything else so much faster. I can't even believe it. Like it's like lightning speed, and it's just, I don't want to give too much away because I think Ross wants to talk about it soon, and he's just in the middle of building the big oven now. But I think someday soon we're gonna kind of reveal and take some video of it and stuff to see what the reaction will be. But so far so good. It's kept the temp no problem, and it gets to temp faster because that's also an issue, right? And maintaining that temp stronger, but the production time, it's like, oh man, the wheel is just getting done so much faster,
Yeah, that was like the big thing that, I left a shop that was, the Taj Mahal 50-foot, booth and a rapid fire oven, and it's all cool and dandy, but once you get to that size, you don't understand the stress of like shit has to be perfect when it's going in that oven. Like it's in, I almost like I lived for that, you know, I lived for that, you know, being at the forefront and hustling and bussing. And I was very prideful and proudful of that. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think I have more fun taking my time and just breathing and calming down and just taking in everything and just enjoying the moment, you know? And like, that was like when I got to do those two-tone wheels. Like I dreamed for years and years. Like I remember watching, like really the only information that you could find on YouTube back in the day was the guy from ADC powder coating. And that's how I figured out how to do a two-tone wheel, because he showed like the whole vacuuming and the whole wiping technique. And that's all that took, is him showing me how to wipe something 5-6 years ago. And that's it, literally every day repeated in my head. And then like, you know, if you put your gun on the stand again, and then it dropped like red out of the gun and it hits the ground and it splatters everywhere. That's how I figured out like, oh, I could make these Galaxy-esque looking splatters.
Yeah.
And it was just weird things that kind of popped up in my head over the production side for so many years that, you know, once I got
NV Coatings on YouTube has some stuff on there too, right? I think. Is it them or I don't know.
I haven't seen his.
Yeah, NV. N as in Nancy, V as in Victor.
And it's pretty crazy. I started powder coating in 2012 for Lake City Powder Coating here in Coeur d'Alene. Mm-hmm. And I worked for Larry for about 8 years. And then I got a wild hair up my ass and I was going to go back and spray it liquid. So I went and worked for a roller coaster company called Rocky Mountain Roller Coasters here in Idaho. I worked for them for 2 weeks and I was like, fuck liquid. I can't stand liquid. And just the differences between bosses, it was like, holy cow, these guys are crazy. I can't deal with it.
Well, good thing for you, because Ross is allergic to polyurethane now, oil-based polyurethane. He's supposed to be allergic to it.
Yeah, and then so I got sick of that, walked down the street to my competitor powder coating shop at the time, and I walked in there and he was like, oh, I'm looking for a new manager right now. And I was like, well, I guess I'd probably be your best bet in this town. I put money on it, and that ended up being not so well. And, you know, it was just kind of like, it was a family run business, and the son was kind of a bad person, and we really didn't see eye to eye. And I figured out really soon that he wasn't going to leave and I wasn't going to get that manager spot. And I was just going to be the little grunt that knew everything.
Right.
So during this time, I knew there was a shop being built out in Rafterum. And at the time that was going to be, you know, the biggest shop, the biggest oven, the biggest everything, the newest equipment this side of Mississippi, pretty much to like California or Southern Washington. So I was like, heck yeah. Like I'd had all this experience from, you know, the Nordson Versa Spray 2 and, you know, being able to lay gloss black like it was glass with that gun. And then I went to Spectrum and I learned how to use the GEMA, and they never let me spray hot. So I learned, like, pretty much went backwards and just taught myself how to spray cold again, you know, and learn a newer-ish gun. And then I walked into, they told me to leave and go like apply for unemployment one day. And I was like, all right, like, cool. Like, you just told me what I wanted to hear. So I left, and I had like some side jobs at home because I had my little Craftsman gun and my little convection toaster oven that I was doing mods with. So at that time I was literally covering my rent with, you know, my side work. So I like got a wild hair at my ass, went into that shop that was being built, and the guy that owned that shop was in there painting like a full cart of handrail. And he's got a dude behind him with a flashlight. And he's in this that booth that I just showed you that's all lit up and beautiful. Yeah. And he's got this nice gun. And I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, oh, he's my QC guy. And I'm just like, your QC guy shouldn't be here. You should be outside checking your stuff that's like getting ready to be leaving. And he's like looking at me like, who the fuck are you? And I'm like, dude, you need a painter. And he's like, oh yeah, I know. And he's like, can you be here at 7 tomorrow? And I'm like, sure. So I wake up and I get ready to leave. And he's like, I was up till like 5 spraying. He's like, come in at 11. So then I walked in at like 11. They didn't have anything racked up. They didn't have anything ready for me to paint. And this is like, you would probably have a heart attack seeing like how nice this building, like you could eat off the floors in this building. Like it's nothing powder coating has ever seen at this point, you know?
Right.
And I'm just like, holy crap. So they rack me up all this stuff and I put my headphones on and I go in the booth and I'm dancing and I'm painting and I'm doing my thing. And I'm like, are you guys going to load up another? Like I'm yelling, like, keep going. Like, this is what a powder shop is. Like, do I have to teach you how to do this? Like, this dude spent millions of dollars building this shop and he had no idea how to run it.
Yeah.
So then, you know, I go in and I helped him turn and burn, you know, and he started to get the idea like, holy shit, this kid knows what he's doing. And, you know, then reps started coming in and reps were telling me like, dude, you probably have the most style I've seen on a gun. Like you look like a liquid painter when you paint. And I'm like, well, that's what I came from originally. And I just wanted to be, you know, if a painter came in here, I'd want him to see what you know, it's a painter. Like you shouldn't be shaking your gun like a crazy man. Like this isn't the 1950s anymore. And that was just something I took pride in and I ran with it. And I think like the biggest realization is I turned this job with like all these awnings that I had to spray all this paint from Mexico. I can't remember the company, what it was called. There's a bunch of powder that we bought from Mexico and we had like did this huge equation on all the surface area and how much, you know, like a mill covers so much. So we did all this math and we ordered all this paint and stuff. So I had to calculate certain pounds per, you know, per awning. Mm-hmm. And I had to dump that much on said awning and said cart. So like I would have certain bags weighed up or I'd weigh throughout the whole thing. And I would have to obviously weigh, but then I would have to calculate and I'd have to write everything down. So like and
monitor how many. Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't run out of this green or I don't run out of this red or I don't run out of this beige because I had all these awnings to do for like this extended stay hotel in not Mexico, but in Arizona somewhere. Long story short, it was like over a $500,000 job and I turned it in 5 days. Obviously I had like the best sandblaster. This kid that I had, he's no longer with us, but he was this younger kid that fucking amazing sandblaster. He walked in, had no idea what he was doing. And we taught him how to do what we wanted to do. And that's what we got from this kid. Mm-hmm. But, you know, thankfully we had, you know, a good crew that was sandblasting. We had a good hanging crew and I was the only painter. Nobody would at this time had the gumption to get on the other gun. I had 2 pumps in this room and nobody would use the other pump. I can't use both pumps. Like, so I turned this job in like a week. It was like 7 days, watched it all get loaded up and taken out. And it was, you know, like 7 days of like nonstop, like there at 5 a.m. till 4 a.m, like sleeping an hour or not sleeping at all. And, you know, I'm not the kind of person that's like, hey, give me my money or anything, but it would have been nice to have been like, here's a bonus. You just made me $500,000 in 5 fucking days, you know, like. And that's when I knew I was like, you know, I've obviously taught this guy how to make a lot of money. I've showed him a lot of my tricks, which a lot of my prior bosses would probably be mad about because I probably took a lot of work from them after leaving their shops, you know? And it's just like I got really tired. I got really discomplacent. I got excited at first because I got to paint with all this cool stuff. But then, you know, after a year, 2 years goes by, you're like, it's never ending. That, you know, he's biting off more than he can chew every day. You know, he's expecting you to do this, this, and this. And then he would hire another painter to come in and the other painter would supposedly have 15 years, like they all say. And then the funniest thing I'll never forget, this guy's like, you know, talking himself up like, oh yeah, I've been painting this and this for, you know, so many years. And I worked at this shop and that shop. And I'm like, okay, cool. I was like, that gun behind you's ready. You got a new mask right there. I was like, you ready to do a hot coat? And the dude looks at me and he goes, what's a hot coat? You've been powder coating for 15 years and you don't know what a hot coat is. Wow. Like that's the stuff that I had to deal with, you know? And then, you know, like every painter, you know, give or take some.
It's amazing that didn't even happen by accident.
Yeah, right. Exactly. Like, how were you not preheating anything and getting away with it?
That happened and just, you know, like by chance.
I mean, we even have guns that are called hot coats today. Like, I mean, wasn't that like the trick back in the 50s when they couldn't get stuff to stick? They just heat it up and like,
yeah.
You know, like that's how I got taught from a dude that had 30 years of experience, you know, and it's kind of crazy. And, you know, I hear through the grapevine that they've gone through 10 plus painters since, or, you know, and I'm not here to say or do that. You know, it's like, I just wanted to be happy and to be able to provide my family with the things I want to give my family. And this area, there's nobody that can do what I can do. So
to me, I just see you.
I just rolled my dice.
I see you global.
Hopefully that's the goal, you know, like is
that's
to
a huge barrier. You found a product that you can be global with. That's amazing.
I think like the main thing though is like what I would like to do is like to be able to travel to shops and help people like with problems, or, you know, just help them figure out what they're trying to troubleshoot, you know, like, because a lot of, you know, having somebody else around or having somebody else that has a like, you know, mind that kind of thinks the same, you might be able to see something that they're not seeing, or, you know, just help somebody troubleshoot a problem that they've had, you know, a hell of a time with. And I don't feel like there's people in this industry that want to do that, but, you know, it'd be pretty cool to be able to fly out to you guys and help you guys for a couple of days, or show you a couple of tricks, you know, of how to paint a huge walk-in gate, and, you know, and to be right, you know, and that's the thing. Like, that's what I wished of. Like, I wished, you know, reps would come in and put their suit on and get in the booth with me and spray with me. Like, I would have loved to have a pissing match with a rep. You know what I mean? Like, those things, those are what these painters need, you know, like painters need somebody to come in and like, you know, ruffle their feathers a little bit and like ask them questions and make them think, because at the end of the day, like, I'm sure, you know, people deal with it too. Like, I'm sure Kaiser deals with, you know, having good people that come in that are applicators that he's got to babysit, or that, you know, like that he has to make sure that he's probably got a lot of money invested into his applicators, you know, to know so something doesn't go wrong.
Yeah. And inevitably, I mean, he just posted the other day about how just even using the wrong hook, he kind of messed up his whole operation, you know, and, you know, and it's just such an everyday occurrence, and how he goes about explaining it is just, you know, and the process, and it's just the way he writes, or you know, I know he has helpers, but like,
he's like the perfect advocate for our industry.
He is. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I'm going to have him on the directory. We're working out like his blog. We're going to try to put a feed in there of his blog, because although he's speaking to powder coaters, not all of his posts are that. They're to the consumer as well, like what to expect on a rainy day. You know, I mean, I love that post.
That's the stuff that I overseed, you know, that's the stuff that I had to deal with as a lead coder. Guess what? I was the dude that had to run the forklift, and I had to package everything up. That had to bubble everything up.
Oh my God. Oh. So long, you know,
or stacking handrail correctly and padding it correctly. Like, those are the things that like I would just go AWOL over, and to have somebody in the industry that's actually explaining that stuff for consumers is like, why didn't we think of this?
Yeah, I think he's, you know, he's just sharing his journey, but the way he writes is towards like a consumer or someone. He can write either way,
right?
You know,
and I think that's kind of
there's
like
a guy I'm hoping to interview soon. He just started a YouTube channel, and I thought, should I reach out to him this soon? You know, because he's really just kind of growing a channel. And I'm so glad I did. I hope to have him on the show, but his angle is so unique. Well, I don't know what his angle is. I'm trying to figure it out. But what I saw was someone that could actually be perfectly placed on the directory, front and center, because it's almost like this one video I was watching was him talking about a small project, just a garage project. This is ideal. This is what we need to inspire consumers to get to why they want to go with a powder coater versus a painter, you know? And it's just a small little job shop. It was, you know, it's a DIY project that probably was more advanced than the average, and why you'd want to send it to a powder coater, because they've got this extra knowledge that, you know, a DIYer wouldn't have. But you could totally direct that whole YouTube channel to just the consumer market and doing small projects and featuring, you know, like those little things that the circus stuff, you know, the restoring of the old stuff and rims, whatever. You could just make it towards a consumer, the angle, you know. So we'll see how he develops his channel, because a lot of the people that we're watching now are, you know, like unknown, who's just giving you DIY because you've already been powder coating for a while and you just want this question answered.
Yeah, he's pretty much like the cookie cutter of knowledge for people that want the knowledge fast, that have obviously jumped through loopholes, figured out, you know, that this gun really isn't going to do this for me. Right. And they're already beyond that point. These are the people that are, you know, having problems, or, you know, in the sense of just kind of looking where they're going to go next of what they want to try to do. Mm-hmm. And I think that's a lot of things that we deal with in this industry, is a lot of monkey see, monkey do. Mm-hmm. And not a monkey get off your ass and do what you want to do, you know, like, and I feel like that's what I tried as myself, is I try to put out as much organic and as much raw me as myself, because I don't want to have to deal with some different persona of me, you know, like I don't want to put on some fake face of, you know, this, right, or that. Like I want people to have real knowledge, and I want to have people to like me for who I am, and not, you know, just think I'm some dude that's just a painter, like, you know. And that's unfortunate. Like, I think that's with Sean puts forward a lot of organic content. Like, Sean is Sean, and Sean's raw. And if you don't like Sean, then go somewhere else, you know, like
somewhere else. Right. Yeah.
And he's pretty right on with his, you know, like with what he's telling you. And that's kind of something I've tried to relay in what I'm doing in my live feeds, is kind of explain, you know, this is this powder and this is what I have this set at, you know, even though a lot of my people that are viewing me don't come to me for that information, but I feel like it's my job and my duty to be professional and to explain certain things. So like, let's say a powder coater does show up on my live feed, I don't look like some dumbass that doesn't know what I'm talking about.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's just being professional in what you do. And that's obviously, you know, that's the passion showing too, you know?
Well, you know, and the thing is everybody wants to be everywhere, but you know, where are you going to be good at? Right. So you can have,
fuck being everywhere. That's all I got to say. Exactly. I deal with Facebook and Instagram, and I have my own website, and that is enough to drive me crazy. Like, I've finally gotten to this point to where my wife was like working a job that she really didn't like, and she was getting really stressed out. And I was just like, fuck it, just quit. And you can work for me. Like, you can come in. She's been sandblasting for me. She's been hanging parts for me. Like, there's nothing that, like, she won't get on the gun just yet. Like, I'm like trying to like, come on, just try it, you know, like it's fun, you know, and like, she'll sit there and stand stuff with me. And I do a lot of trick stuff. So like, I don't like tape. I try to avoid tape at any given moment. And you'd be amazed what you could do with an air hose or with like an air blower.
Yeah. Right.
And obviously these tubes and stuff, you can blow them out and wipe and do a lot of clean, cool stuff. And she's pretty talented at that. You know, I've showed her how to do it, and she started, you know, we've dropped a few things here and there together, but she's getting good at it, and she holds me accountable, you know, and it makes me
like Jennifer Haight, you know, she's the main coder at Black Label.
That's crazy. That's cool.
She does a lot of it herself, you know.
And that's like something that I want to bring, you know, I want her to maybe get on the gun someday, because women are a little bit
you don't know what they're good at until you give them
they could be better than us. They could be way better than us. So, and that's the thing, you know, I'd like it to be able to, you know, if something happens, she knows what to do, and she can, you know, provide for herself or for my kids and her kids. And that's the thing, you know, but main reason why I brought her on is to deal with like my business page on Facebook. Obviously I have a group, but that's more towards like the vape side community things of what I do. And she deals with that. She helps me with like the booking and all that great stuff. And she's actually the reason why I got the big oven. She invested into me to get the big oven and to do wheels. And
Mm-hmm.
It takes a
It's a
pretty strong woman to take
Yeah.
that big of an investment and throw it at me, but she's obviously had to deal with me and listen to me talk like this every night, so I think she believes in me a little bit.
Yeah. I think for me, it was just when I started to go and want knowledge or seek knowledge, I couldn't find any.
Yep.
It's like where, I guess I had come from a different industry, so it seemed like it was just some more prevalent. It was interior design and construction and contract.
And everything, I feel like everything is so much more explanatory, like everybody's kind of sees like okay, what's the catch in it? Being that it's shoes or clothes or fashion or whatever it may be. But then it kind of comes down to like these industrial things that, you got to go to a special shop for, or you got to go to this special someone for. And it's just kept I honestly think it's been like the demise of our industry. It's kept our industry so quiet. It's like, and that's the unfortunate part, is that's why there's no information out there, because nobody wants to share their information. Because if you look at the East Coast side of things, it's a lot of these manufacturing and huge powder coating shops, that, may do manufacturing inside and have a powder coating operation, or you have like the Sherwin-Williams plant, that obviously paints stuff for a lot of people. So a lot of stuff's like in-house, or it's a lot of secrets, or, like obviously companies don't want this company coming up with a match. Like if you've ever sprayed BK08 from Cardinal, I swear to God, everybody in the industry has a match to BK08 Cardinal that doesn't match, like, and that's kind of like the thing. I would just really like to see everybody get along, come together, do their thing, but also, stay in their lane. It's like, find out what you're good at and just run with it. And that's kind of what I did. I just found something I was passionate about and what I was good at, and I didn't give up. It's like, there may have been some days where it was, a little bit rougher than others, and, you just wanted to quit and give up and maybe go get a real job again. But at the end of the day, the smell of melting powder, like there's just something about it that gets me excited, and there was nothing about liquid or sanding Bondo or doing metal work or any of the things that I did prior to this as a kid growing up with my brother. It was like, this is kind of my thing, and I feel like I fit here. I'm not going to go anywhere,
Yeah. That's how Ross and I feel. I know Ross, when he discovered powder coating, it was that feeling like I finally found my place, kind of thing.
Yeah, and like the last 2 years.
Worn a million hats, done a million things prior to this. This is, we're older. We're not your age. We're older. And so we had a lot of, and it's funny because when you look back at your life, you look back and you see, oh, wow, all these things that I did prior to this has led me to this moment,
Yeah, when it's like I'm like sitting here before this podcast, like nervous, like I'm like shaking, I'm like freaking out. And it's just like, I feel like, every aspect of me powder coating, everything that I've done has led me to this point and given me all this knowledge that I can't contain, like you couldn't contain all my knowledge in one episode or 5. Like, we're all still learning. We're all still experimenting. And that's the thing, is it's like, once you get that bug and once you figure out, it's just like a light bulb goes off, and it's just like everything powder coating wise just kind of becomes effortless. And like, you just become one with your gun, and you become one with your oven, and everything just starts flowing and stuff. And that's like something it's hard to come by, like I grew up racing BMX and motocross, and those were the things that I was very passionate about for a long time. And I'm still a big fan of today, but I get a lot of those, feelings and those emotions when I pull out a hot load of something and I turn the music on and I'm just jamming and I'm in my own element. I get those same endorphins running through my body as I would, if I was racing a big national when I was a kid, or, and I feel like
that's the one thing that worries me about all the new people coming out. And
they don't know the suffer part. They don't know.
Well, they don't know, but we're all on our own journey there. But I think that it's like they're just starting, but there's no story yet. There's no journey.
Nothing's really sparked them yet.
And it's like, well, what are you going to say about your website? Well, I'm not going to get that, blah, blah, blah. You know, I'm like, no, you don't understand. There are certain things that you have to craft to make a brand. You know, nobody's just going to go to you because you're just around the corner from the other guy. You got to give them a reason.
This thing right here, this signature, believe it or not, that was the signature. I got sick and tired of signing my full name on invoices in my paint booth. Because a job come in and you got an invoice and you got to sign off and there's a little note section that I would write, how many passes, or I would write equations just in case I came back to it, And after a while, I got so tired of signing my full name, I just started doing the AP thing, and then it's turned into like the little star AP thing, and then I just kept daydreaming about that and daydreaming about that and daydreaming about that, and then I was just like, things kind of molded into another thing, and I had my other logo with my face on it and stuff. And that put me out there. That put, my face to my product. That gave me brand recognition. And then I was like, okay, I got to bring this in. We brought this in and kind of put it on shirts. And then now it's on my mod.
Right.
And that's kind of like it's cool. Like to see like your signature, your seal of approval, like kind of become a thing, kind of in a household name kind of way, and that's kind of what I'm trying to do with powder coating. I don't want to just be a painter. You know what I mean? I don't want you to look at, Palmer's Powders as a powder coater. Yeah, I might be a powder coater, but I want to bring other things to powder coating. I would like to, maybe make tools, in certain aspects, like certain tools for certain applications depending on what you're painting, and that's where you got to kind of go. You got to, like, for me, I'm not thinking about what's the next thing I'm going to be coding. I'm kind of thinking on like, what's the next collaborative thing I can be doing that not only, it puts my name out there, but it's also putting somebody else's name out there. Kind of like this whole podcast, you're bringing me on to build me up. And then also in return, you're going to be surprised at what I do once I leave here. I have this whole other, platform that I can speak upon, that I can say, for my powder coating people, or I can recommend people that are having problems. I can tell them to come listen to you now, because you have a lot of information to relay. You have to deal with Ross. You have to deal with all the books and you order the paint. So at the end of the day, it comes down to, you've learned a lot of knowledge to tell him to pass on to him, and if, it's like at this point we have such this base to start growing on, and it's going to take you and Ross to bigger places and to learn other experiences and other things. And that's just the cool part of, people that are open to this, is it's going to fucking blow up quick.
I hope so. I mean, I really want that to happen. I think the industry is ripe for it. And
hopefully it blows up.
We deserve it. We deserve it. You deserve it. I deserve it. Ross deserves it.
Well, and if you think about it, your community deserves it. You know what I mean? Like Hawaii, the community you guys are serving, you're not only serving to look cool, you guys have to preach corrosion protection. There's so much more that you guys know than just looking cool. Then, you guys have to deal with salt in your air. You have to deal with humidity. Like, there's so much shit that us mainland people, we deal with, but we don't deal with island-like conditions. We don't deal with tropic conditions. You guys, in a sense, are on the forefront of making that product better in that environment. You know what I mean? And you're bringing it to your community to where your community thrives off of that. And that's one thing that, I feel like we need to preach is, I may be a separate person in my community, but I'm going to offer you a better product. You're going to get your money's worth. You're going to feel better walking out my door. You're not going to feel jaded. And if you do, I'm going to try to make you feel better about it, Yeah.
Well, this, we're scaling again because we kind of got hit back down from the COVID thing and rebuilding our shop and all of that with the new location. And, we're just doing like we did before, which is we waited for a job to help pay for this oven to be built. I'm not going to go and just buy, we have the knowledge to build it. It's not even that anymore.
Yeah, it's the time and the money that you got to fall into.
Exchange, right? So we waited, and sure enough, this railing that we're doing next week is has been a nightmare for this construction company, where they ordered it from the mainland. It came out of Pennsylvania. They sent the first one over, and it had all these different weird angles. And, you know, of course, they didn't weld it right, and it doesn't meet the wall. And I mean, it's just one, you know, aside from that.
That's crazy. You guys don't have any good, like.
Oh, no. We do. They just decided to order it from Pennsylvania because it was cheaper. That was 6 months ago.
That gives me like, that freaks me out.
No, it's the classic thing that people do here. It really is.
It sounds like classic fucking handrail builders here that would bring me a rail, not test fit it, and then bring it back the next day and be like, hey, can you recoat this? Because I had to fix it. And you're like,
or can I fix it on the
5
job?
days from now I can.
Yeah, can I fix it on the
job?
job?
Well, the code inspector's coming at like 5 o'clock and I said it'd be done. Yeah. I've been there, done that.
Because we're so far away from the mainland. But, you know, like I went to this, you know, she told me where she bought it from, right? Where she originally bought it from. And on this website is everything you need to know about a gate except for the coating. Like they say they're powder coating it, and that's all they say. There's no spec, there's nothing, anything about the kind of finishes you're going to get or how we do it or anything.
Oh, man.
Like, what kind of weird website is this? So I realized the gig was up then, you know, and then so now they're trying to just satisfy the homeowner at this point because the homeowner's holding back the last payment, right? And so this is dragging on, and I'm sure it's like tens of thousands of dollars that they're waiting on for this, you know, $3,000 gate, you know, railing. So they finally went and got it done locally, and we're getting it next week.
What color is it going?
Oh, so the thing is you should see the horrendous photos they sent us. It looks like a chrome, but the chrome isn't done well at all. Like it's like a prismatic chrome, or could be OGF chrome, or even a Columbia chrome, but it's milky. You know, it's kind of weird in some places. It just, it's awful. It's awful. So
to think that somebody wants to put that outside scares me.
No, it's an inside railing.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Well, at least it's inside.
It makes it even more, you know, like if it
your eyes are way more on it.
Yeah. You know, and I'm looking at the coating and just looking at how crappy this coating is. If they were trying to attempt some kind of a chrome or reflective look or any kind of like silver even, it didn't even come out right. I don't even know what they shot, and they wouldn't tell us. I said, well, find out what powder, because obviously that's the powder that they picked. So I got to go and order that, whether it's Columbia or Frizz or
wherever,
anybody, right? Wherever. And they wouldn't tell me. And then on top of that, you know, they were about ready to send, so they made it again. They made a new one again. And this time we discovered that they were mixing aluminum with steel. Yeah. So the top rail was aluminum, but oh my God, it's just a Frankenstein thing. And I'm like, how is that? You're already having like dissimilar metals. You think that's going to last here in Hawaii with the
I'm so picky, even to the point of like on all your bases to where your handrail is going to get bolted to. All those plates, I'll go in and bevel all those edges so you can't get any bulge.
Yeah.
And I'll go in and I'll scrape all the freaking little BBs and clean everything up.
So they ordered an aluminum railing, but they really didn't get an aluminum railing. The top rail is aluminum, but the other stuff is all made out of steel because it's cheap ass and whatever. And I gave this lady a whole education to just the fact that I, you know, helped her kind of think through this thing, you know, like with the pictures and what I was seeing. And I'm like, this isn't what you're ordering this, but this isn't what you're getting, you know. Now, far be it for me to tell this manufacturer and this powder coater. So sure enough, they powder coat it and they're ready to ship it out, but they realize that the coating isn't right. It's a little messy and it's not passing their inspection. And they're wondering, should we spend another week sending it back to the powder coater? So they're not even doing in-house powder coating, which means they have no control over the quality of what they're getting once they send it out. On top of the fact that they built it wrong in the first place, and this is the second railing that they're having to do. And yeah, it was one of those. But hey, it came our way. We're able to build our big oven. We're able to, finally.
That's usually how it is. It's like, it's always some crazy, convoluted, stressful job that, that ends up, you get to the end of it, you can wipe your hands clean, and then it works out,
Yeah, and they know to do it local and get it done right with Maui Powder Works, right?
And now they know for the next.
They're not going to make that mistake again, So yeah, it's it's good. We're almost like, it's almost for us, it's like starting over again or starting again. It's
that was the big thing. Even I did like a big change just with inside my shop. I had my bench in one area, and I moved it to a different area, and then we got the bigger oven in, and there was a lot of changing of where my my area was going to be. And even for like a good month, it kind of threw me off mentally, because I wasn't used to not being in that one spot, and it was just it's kind of weird what little things can kind of affect you or kind of throw you off of your flow and kind of disrupt you. But I think at the end of the day, as a good powder coater, we're always contradicting ourselves, or we're always second guessing ourselves. So like, I feel like if we can all kind of learn how to just bite our tongue, believe in ourselves, and just get over certain humps, like we would just be better off, but that's not how, that's not how Murphy's Law works, right? Or,
yeah, we're creatures of habit.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, what do you think we should ask the listeners? Like, I always try to end with some kind of a thought-provoking question. Don't be quiet now.
A thought-provoking question.
Well, like, yeah. I mean, it just usually surrounds yourself, or, around the subject or topic that we've been talking about, like, I'm always about brand. I'm always, I have that marketing edge. And so, I guess, what do you think of the directory? That's a good one. We kind of just softly disclosed what we're doing. I want to do another, maybe get Ross on or somebody just to kind of introduce it more formally. But, it's just, we're in a soft launch right now, and we're going to start advertising. And I think, what do you think of the directory? You kind of got a little peep show on it.
I think you guys are going to all have to kind of fucking hold on, because we're getting shot into outer space, in my opinion. It's like this is a big thing. And like a lot of people, I don't think they're going to understand the severity of it, or they're not going to understand it at the beginning. But then there's going to be a lot of things that come from it that make people understand. And it's kind of like, I don't know, kind of go back to like what Shia LaBeouf says about like being casted by Spielberg, like he was ready to be casted by Spielberg, but he wasn't ready to be stuck in that rocket ship and shot out into fucking orbit. And then, okay, you're out in orbit. What do I do now? And I think there's going to be a lot of, this will either make or break people. It's going to put people out there that are actually doing real, honest, true work. And then it's going to decipher you from the people that are kind of blowing smoke up your ass.
Yeah.
And that's honestly, that's what you do need in this industry. And, it's not to badmouth people, but, if there's people out there that are doing stuff and spreading wrong information about what we're doing, it really kind of sends an echo throughout the whole industry. And this industry is quite a big echo chamber. And
it is,
you've experienced that quite a bit. And I honestly try to avoid it. You know what I mean? I try not to be in anybody's drama, or, I'm out here doing my own thing. And that's kind of like the benefit. I'm in Idaho. I don't have any of my big vape friends that are around me, distracting me with what I'm doing. I don't have a lot of car people in the industry that are by my shop a lot, fucking bugging me or anything. So I really just get to go and shut myself off from the world, and then come out of my shell and post it on social media. And I'm glad that this is coming out, because this is giving me more of a chance to break out of my shell, right, as a powder coater and as a custom coater myself, and, to be able to bring my skill set to wheels and to other things instead of just doing little mods.
Yeah, I think, the world we live in is sometimes derived by influencers in the market. it's just the nature of our society now, thanks to Instagram and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's like another thing. I don't want to be an influencer.
Well, but in a sense, a lot of people don't. I'm not saying, unless you're Kim Kardashian or whatever, whoever.
Exactly, right.
Or Kylie Jenner or whatever. I mean, that's not what I'm not talking about that.
No, I totally get what you mean, but you got to look at it in the aspect of like, there is influencers in this industry. Like certain people influence certain products, and obviously that's how they make their money. I'm not knocking that, but I'm not going to be, like I would like people to, endorse me maybe, or endorse Maui Powder Works. I would like to see endorsements, but I don't want to see like this whole influencer bullshit, because then it kind of gets misconstrued, and kind of like how we're talking, and what's kind of like irritating all of us, people that have been here for years and that are, working our hard asses off for this, these things like.
Maybe influencer isn't the right word, but it's leadership in some sense of the word. Like, you're not necessarily looking at other powder coater. Like, I guess you're certainly doing something way different than everybody else. You may not look at yourself as a leader in that sense, but you are, in the sense that you're doing something so different than the
I'm trying to, I guess it's like I'm really trying to bring something to powder coating to just really open up everybody's eyes. Like, when people say you can't do that, like, okay, yeah, you may be not able to do certain things chemically. We understand that, and on a chemistry basis. Yeah. But there's things that, our industry hasn't allowed our coders to take the time to figure out what I've done. You know what I mean? Like, and that's the thing, is like, I want people to just fucking shut the clock off for 10 minutes or an hour and just let your mind go crazy. Like, yes, we get it. Bills have to be paid. And I trust me, I'm on that same train. I have bills I have to pay too, but there is still common ground. Like you said, you can bring the price down to a certain point to where still everybody is fucking happy. You're still making your money. They're still making you're making your customer happy. Or in my instance, like certain things I have to chop my price down, but yeah, I still make money, but then that product can still get in the hands of consumers at a reasonable price. You know what I mean? Yeah. And that's the thing. Like, okay, if my brother can do airbrush work or car paint work at the same rate I can, what's the difference between us? Mm-hmm. There really isn't, other than the chemical, things that are dividing us, and that's the thing. It's like, I've just taken the time and realized that, an hour of your time, you can actually figure out a lot of shit that people told us we couldn't do with powder. Right. You know what I mean? And it's like, no, it's just because I wasn't in the area or the environment that allowed me to do that. Yeah. You know what I mean? I remember I tried to do a set of 2-tone wheels for my boss one time, and I blew all their minds once I started wiping this wheel. And I got halfway through it, and he's like, "Oh, blow it off. This is taking too long." Okay, get the tack rag out. You can clean it off. And it's just and that's just the thing, like, I feel like obviously our industry it costs a lot to get into. It costs a lot to take your time to fuck with it. And, once stuff starts flying through the gun, you can't get that back, Yeah.
Well, and that's why I'm so into people's stories, and as it's not like as in influencing or myth building, but there is a story behind every powder coater, but there are some that are doing something so different that it intrigues me to have them on the podcast to get their story out more and to get that exposure. And what is, the question to our listeners is, what makes you different? What's your differential? What's your story? What's your uniqueness? That's a big thing that they're talking about in all these pivot seminars that I'm attending and stuff like that, with COVID-19, and how are you different, and what are you going to bring to the industry? I want to connect everybody. It's like herding cats right now.
I think the difference, for me, is like what I bring is just open your mind. Like, stop holding yourself back so much. Stop being so scared. Like, don't be scared. Like, figure it out. It's all it's all about learning, and it's all about having that knowledge. So when that person does come in your door and they want something, guess what? Maybe 2 years ago, somebody wanted something and I could have been honest with them and be like, I don't know how to do that.
Yeah.
But now I've done so many different kinds of things that I can think of that I don't have any ideas anymore. But I know certain things are possible and I know things aren't. So it's like what I can bring to the industry or what I can bring to companies or whatever it may be, or even just coders that have questions. It's like, just stop being scared at the end of the day and just go with it. You know, like nothing ever happened from just sitting by. Like, you know, I got sick and tired of watching videos of Sean and all these powder coat guys and all these guys on Instagram. I got so fucking tired of seeing all this cool shit and not being a part of it. So I did something about it. You know, it's like, and that's just really, you know, we live in such a society today where everybody wants everything fucking handed to them. And that's, in this industry, it kind of, you know, you nothing comes handed to you. You're sweating your ass off. You're always in a hot environment, or it's, you know, it stinks or it burns, or you've hit your hand with a sandblaster or something. You know, it's like, it's not for the kind-hearted.
No.
You know what I mean?
Not for the faint of heart. Yeah.
I think, you know, that's my benefit of, you know, growing up racing dirt bikes and BMX. I enjoyed suffering. You know what I mean? I enjoyed the whole just the grinding, just
the grit,
you know, to get to the point of winning, you know. And I think that's one thing about powder coating, that, you know, you got to suffer just a little bit, but once you're done suffering, that instant gratification of that product coming out of the oven, you know, it's you can't match it. Yeah.
And it's, you know, people that, I think that's another quality, is they love a challenge, you know, because how they realize accepting the challenge they could fail, or they could be in over their heads, but they're not going to allow themselves to do that. And they're going to stick through it until they get it right, stuff, you know? So there is that too, that you should have in order to succeed or have in your brand, you know, that, you know, because at some point somebody's going to ask you that question, can you do this rim, or can you do this part like this? And you're going to be either,
you're either a good coach, you're either a good applicator, or you're an applicator that doesn't know, you know. Not to say that you're not a good applicator. It's not saying that, but certain powders, you know, you have to have certain skill sets for them. Like, you have to know how to set your gun up to spray a hammered correctly or spray a vein correctly, you know. And you know, certain colors, you know, I can tell you straight up, like, certain colors I'm scared to death of because I've had bad experiences with, you know. But it takes you time and experience to get over those hurdles, you know. And it's just certain things, you know. Certain powder coaters will say no to things because they just don't know how to, or they're, you know, they're just scared of messing something up, you know, like.
Yeah. And I think that's where, like, you know, people get worried. There's so many people coming into this market. They don't know what they're doing. And I'm like, just relax. They're either going to sink or swim, you know, like, let them, you know, they're going to get burned, or they're going to run out of money or energy,
or you're going to be fixing their work 6 months from now,
or you're going to be fixing their work, or, you know, it's, you just need to kind of let it happen. And I know it's harder because you might be in more of a competitive area of the country. And there definitely are some areas we're actually doing, like, I just kind of scraped a lot of data just to help with building the directory and working through.
Yeah, you got like the biggest custom coater close to me is Forever Powder Coating out of Tacoma, Washington.
Mm-hmm.
And those guys do some killer work.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you can't survive either.
No, I'm doing just fine. I figured out my own little niche, you know, I'm doing just fine. And that's the thing, you know, I'm not here to be scared of, you know, people taking work from me or vice versa that, you know, I've figured out my own way. And I think at this point, you know, if I'm 10, 11 years into powder coating and I'm over a year now being self-employed with Palmer's Powders, you know, I think at this point, if I'm scared about people taking my work, you know, I feel like I'm probably in the wrong industry, you know, to have those, to be second guessing yourself like that. And, you know, like, if you're worried about that kind of stuff, then your work obviously doesn't speak for itself enough, and that's really kind of what it goes from, and
I couldn't say it better. Yeah, you just said it. It's so well said there.
I started in the dirtiest, dingiest powder coating shop in this area, but guess what? Still to this day, that shop pumps out some of the best work probably in the world, from just solid colors, and I got to learn from that. And I got to take what I liked from that process and mix it with other processes and to see what didn't really work and what did work the best, and I feel like in the Northwest, besides certain people that are still obviously coding industrial wise and on the gun, 10 hours a day, I feel like in this area, I could be, one of the top painters for just knowledge for people, to help. And that's just kind of like the thing. It's just time and experience and just being humble about it, like not being cocky about what you're doing and just let your work talk.
Yeah. And I don't think, the community can't grow unless we do kind of just stop and have conversations like this and have you share that information or share that knowledge, because that's how we're all really going to grow and make it better. Because
it's like every shop I've ever been in, this shop talks shit about that shop and that shop talks shit about that shop. And guess what? None of those guys know each other. They don't know each other's names. They don't know who they are, and that's the funny thing about it. It's like you all can run your fucking mouths, but at the end of the day, I've been a lead painter in all three of these shops and none of you guys know each other. It's like, and that's the thing that, cracks you up at the end of the day is it's like, guess what? Not one shop in this town can deal with every manufacturer, every handrail guy, every dude wanting to fucking do his car. There's enough work for y'all to deal with, and that's why I got away from it and started my own shop and didn't want to fight over contract jobs. Like if I'd never have to see a handrail again a day in my life, I did something right, and that's just like where I'm at. I feel like I'm probably one of the younger dudes in the industry, but I started when I was 17 and I walked away from it when I was 26, and now I'm 29 rolling on to 30 this year. And, that my future's bright and things only keep coming, and that's the way I want it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. Well, it's been great talking to you. We could talk all day.
Right.
Geez. I'll have to turn this into 1, 2, or 3-parter here.
Heck yeah. Well, whenever you guys need help or anything, you guys have questions about anything, or if you guys want to get in touch with Cardinal, I can get you guys in touch with Cardinal really well. And
yeah, it would be nice to have some powder suppliers on the show. We haven't had success with that yet. I don't know what that is. I think there's a shyness of some sort of, or maybe a not understanding of what it is.
I think it's more of like I think it's just more of like, they're just so, they're desk driven jobs. You know what I mean? They're in their offices, you know what I mean? And it's like, even Alex from Cardinal, he would be a rep to have on your show because he's so full of knowledge and he's the dude that can get movement going and within Cardinal, and making other people maybe follow.
Right. Yeah.
That's all it takes. It takes one little duckling for everybody else to be like, oh, we got to hop on this train.
Right.
And that's why I'm here. I seen Sean the other day on here and I was like, I got to go talk to her and reach out to Ross and go blow their minds. So.
Well, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you, and I'm so glad to know you and have you be a part of helping build what we're doing,
It's been an absolute honor, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for everybody. It's been an awesome conversation.
Yeah, awesome. So, okay.
Well, right on. You guys have an awesome night, and tell Ross and everybody else I said hi.
Okay. Aloha.
Yeah, aloha.